Team number?
Team number one.
Oh.
So you can be team number one, the first team.
Awesome. All right, I'll go get the play.
Marcus, I guess Marcus.
Marcus Winslow. Mr. Winslow? Yes, you know. Pretty good. I'm Brian.
Marcus Winslow, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Marcus. Marcus, what?
Come on down, Marcus. Have a seat down here. Okay, is it okay if I call you Marcus?
You can call me Mark.
Mark?
How are you?
I'm good. Good to meet you.
Nice
Can't
to
wait.
meet you. Nice to meet you. Ken.
Have a
Right
seat.
here?
Yeah.
All right, great.
Get you water? Anything?
I'm good. I'm good.
All
I
right.
actually have a cup of coffee. Receptionist took care of it already.
Perfect.
Nice.
All right. How's your weekend been so far?
Fabulous.
Good.
Well, not really.
No?
I got cited. I cited for a public disturbance infraction. It's kind of really bothered me.
Oh,
Is that why you're here today?
Yeah, sort of that's the main reason. I don't have a criminal record. I've never been involved, never been arrested or cited or something like that. So, I haven't been able to sleep. I'm losing my hair.
All right. And then, did this just happen then?
Yeah, a couple days ago.
A couple days ago? Okay. And we'll get into all the details, in the near future. Let me talk about a couple ground matters. First of all, a little outline of where we're going to go. After we just give you some preliminary pointers, we'll get some information from you and collect as much information as we can about what happened, and then we'll hopefully talk a little about where we'll go from here, what action we will or won't pursue, what avenues we could go down to try and get relief for you and meet your goals. We'll find out what those goals are. And at the end, if we feel like we want to all jump into this relationship, attorney-client relationship, we'll talk about forming that relationship and a fee agreement and that sort of thing. Okay?
All right.
Any questions?
I think I'm good.
Good. All right.
All right, so you said you got a citation, and our little intake thing says that you were arrested at a protest. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, I started an organization called I think it's called Wake Up. I'm sorry, I don't remember. I'm a little bit rattled.
I understand.
It's an organization I started a couple of years ago. Had a sister who got shot at the
Sorry
mall,
about that.
and so anyway, everything bad happens for a reason. So part of what happened was because of this, she was actually in a vegetative coma. So anyway, I started this organization really to start lobbying as a way to sort of get some gun control and gun limits and sort of some sanity into the world of gun ownership. And nothing really happened. I tried to do some lobbying. I went to the local politicians and stuff. Nobody really seemed to really want to do anything. So then I said, well, this isn't working so good. Let me just create like a sort of a grassroots organization. I had some, previous political organization skills. So let me get it going this way. And so, it was sort of starting to roll along here a little bit. I was, it's real simple. I would just go to the newspaper, and every weekend, there's always somebody getting shot and killed. It's every weekend. So we started clipping these articles out, and I started going, and then families of the victims started, and so we started, protesting. And one of the things that we did, which was pretty effective, was we started going to these churches, and the families, of course, some of them were upset, but they knew what we were doing. They weren't really belligerent, but they were a little distressed at first, but they knew what we were doing, so they sort of gave us a pass. We would protest. And then we would do some social media. I have a younger kid who's good with the computers. He started posting this stuff, and then other people would start showing up, and then things started getting, started building some momentum. But it wasn't, really sort of rolling the way I sort of wanted it. I wanted it to really sort of get going, but it seemed like it was sort of stalling a little bit. So we started doing these like lines, like the old Burma shave lines. We'd have people outside on the street downtown, basically carrying signs with basically pictures of the people who were killed in gun violence. So it was working pretty good. And then I guess the gun people or whatever, they didn't like what we were doing, and I guess, you know, they dropped the dime on us. I think that they have something to do with us getting arrested. So the cops show up. We're on the sidewalk. We're just doing what we've been doing now for months. You know, the cops start telling us, you know, we have to get off the sidewalk. Hey, I know what I've done. I know my rights. I don't have to get off the sidewalk. So the cops started getting an attitude with me, and they started hassling people, and they ended up arresting me and a couple of my supporters. That's what I got cited for. And then they gave me this BS about how I need a permit. I can't put posters up. I can't stand there with my supporters and do the Friday commute thing. I mean, it's all BS, man. I'm like tired of it.
Okay. So let me take a step back with you for 1 second and talk a little bit about attorney-client privilege and confidentiality. Have you seen a lawyer before?
Not for anything like this. I mean, I went through a couple divorces, and
Okay.
I got sued in my business and stuff like that.
Okay. But we're going to talk about some things that maybe aren't the best details, some things that, you know, I know that in the heat of the moment we can all do things that maybe we're not proud of or that we regret. So let me just assure you that anything that you share with us about the details of a couple of days ago when you were cited and arrested, it stays in the room, you know, can't be discovered. So we encourage you to be as open as possible with, you know, our next questions and how we kind of get some more details about your case. If we don't have the details, the good and the bad, it'll be hard to give you any sort of good idea of where we go.
Pretty much everything. I already pretty much told you everything. That's the whole story.
So let's talk about just that initial confrontation with the police. Can you be a little more specific? How did that start with the police? What did they first start saying? Were there arguments? Was there?
Well, we had been protesting in front of the churches, you know, without any problem before that.
Okay.
And then these gun nuts show up with these cardboard cutouts. You know, I know it's a cardboard cutout, but it's still kind of intimidating to see a giant, you know, weapon handed at you. The people in my group, who obviously do not like weapons, were not too entertained by any of this. And then so, you know, sort of a argument. It's not violent, really, just back and forth. But of course, now we're in front of the church, and the cops come up, and they're like, hey, everybody go home. Well, we were here first. We don't have to go home. It's not your sidewalk. It's our sidewalk. It's the city's sidewalk. It's public. The cops are like, if you don't get out of here in 5 minutes, we're going to start arresting people.
And have they given you any warnings, either the day you were cited or in previous occasions?
Other than, if you don't leave now, we're going to arrest you.
Okay.
That's what they told me.
Okay, but you hadn't had any other, I guess, run-ins with the police?
No.
This is your first run-in with the police?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was wondering, did they arrest anyone on the other side?
They did.
They did. How many other people?
You know, things are happening so fast. I think it was probably about a half dozen or so, but I mean, they didn't put us in the same squad car, so I don't know. I heard that there was probably about a half a dozen of them as well.
Okay, and how many on your side?
A smattering, maybe another half dozen.
Okay, okay. How heated was it getting between the two of you guys? Because I can imagine you guys don't see eye to eye a lot, and protests can get pretty...
It wasn't violent, it was just
Okay.
yelling and screaming and getting loud. And
Any obscenities, or?
I don't remember any obscenities.
What about, were there threats starting to come up? Do you feel like, you know, the cop looking in, and I know it's hard to get his perspective, but do you feel like it appeared that violence was imminent? That, you know,
No, I think the whole thing was set up. I mean, most cops are all carrying guns. They're all members of the NRA, and now our protest is getting bigger, and you know. Now all of a sudden we've been doing this protest out of nowhere. This other group shows up and creates disturbance, and now we can't do it anymore. They're trying not to let us do it anymore.
Okay.
Do you know the name of this other group?
I don't.
Okay. And yours was Wake Up? Or?
Wake Up.
Okay, fair enough. So you say they created a disturbance.
How many more?
How many more? Okay.
HMN.
Gotcha. So you say that when the other group showed up, they created a disturbance. From your protests, you know, there must have already been some amount of not commotion, but a good amount of attention there, and some protesting.
Our MO and how we always set it up was silent, because there's a funeral going on. I mean, I got it. Okay, I'm not an idiot. There's a funeral going on, but we were always silent. Now,
Okay.
once in a while, due to the social media, you know, somebody would show up who didn't really know what the ground rules were, and they would get boisterous, but we would usually tone them down. That never really turned into a big problem.
Okay, and you talked about the funeral there, I think that's the first time you mentioned that. Was it your MO to go to the funeral services of those who've been
That's
killed by
correct.
violence?
That was what we would do. We would go to funeral services. Sometimes we would be able to, like say we're going to a funeral on Saturday or Sunday or Monday, we could pull the victim's picture out of the newspaper or off of the police blotter or the websites or wherever. We would put it right on the poster, like in real time.
Okay.
Did you do that?
Pretty awesome.
Did you do that with this protest as well?
I think we did.
Okay.
I mean, we didn't have a problem with the people, with the families of the victims. It was this gun rights nuts who showed up with these giant cardboard cutouts.
Right, because those at the funeral were family members of the victim, so you were.
Correct.
I understand where you're coming from. You were putting a human face to the cost of all this. I was wondering, what exactly was your citation for? Do you remember?
Public disturbance.
Public disturbance, okay. And you mentioned something about like permits and posters and stuff. Did the cops hassle you?
Well, they told me, well, you know, we would do the placards, which we would stand there. We had what I would call the live demonstration, would be on Fridays, 4 to 6.
Mhm.
Very organized. We had all these posters. They're sitting in the garage.
Mhm.
Why not use them? So every Friday, when rush hour, when the commute's the busiest, we'd simply have our supporters would simply line down Main, and there we were, with the pictures of the victims. We've been doing that for a long time. And the cops are telling us we can't do that. They're also telling us that we can't hang up posters, because we were hanging up posters of the victims' faces, you know, wake up, how many more, and with the number. So we'd say, okay, this was, you know, Bob Smith, number 53. You know, he was shot, you know, at a laundromat. This is Mary Smith, you know, or children especially.
Yeah.
So when they were saying you can't do that, did they bother citing to any code or anything, or were they just saying you just can't do that? Or do you remember?
No, cops just say I can't do it. I mean, that's how they are.
Yeah.
They're not citing any rules.
Yeah,
They tell you can do it or you're going to jail, or get off the sidewalk or you're going to jail, or go home or you're going to jail. Those are usually your choices.
Okay. I have a question. So it seems like there may be two different, I guess, purposes for you being, or two different issues. One is the citation that you received, and then are you also kind of looking for help with the poster?
I'm not pleading guilty to that.
Okay.
I'm not pleading guilty to that because I didn't do anything
Okay.
wrong.
Okay. And so I assume you have a court date coming up.
I do.
Okay. Do you have that off the top of your head?
I
Or?
think it's beginning of December, like December 5th.
Okay, so you have a little bit of time, about a month.
I guess this is leading into next topic. What exactly would you like us to do? Because it sounds like you're asking us to help you with the citation, but is there another issue that you...
Right, I mean, I don't want every Friday night to get hassled by the cops because they're saying I need a permit to do what I have a right to do.
Mhm.
I want to stand in the street with a poster, or they don't stop the gun nuts from putting up billboards and running around. How come they're hassling me?
Oh, they do that a lot?
Do what a
The
lot?
gun nuts put up posters too a lot?
They do all kinds of stuff. They got away with whatever they want.
Oh, do you have any, like, can you go into more detail about that? What are they doing? Like, do they have signs around
Where do you
town?
live, man? Are you living in the same city I'm living in?
I'm way out in the country, man.
All right. So, again, so you want some help potentially with your court date, and to defend you.
And then I want to sue the police. I want to sue the city. I want to sue the city council.
Okay. For them trying to make you do these permits and trying to tell you that you can't.
Look, the permits are a sham. You know that. They are just hassling us. That's all they're doing.
Okay.
Okay, so you said you wanted to sue the council, the police, and anyone else about that?
I'm not the lawyer. I'll be
Okay,
able to do
okay.
what I'm entitled to do, what the First Amendment says I can do, which is freedom of speech. That's what I want to do.
That's the main thing you want. You want
I
your
want to be able to
freedom
do
of
what
speech.
I've always been doing, and nobody hassles me. That's what I want.
Okay. That is your primary goal. Gotcha.
And not getting convicted of a crime.
Certainly.
Okay.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about. Are you familiar? Do you feel like you're familiar with First Amendment law and kind of the intricacies of it?
I mean, is that what we're taught in school, that we have a right to freedom of speech?
Sure.
And we can-
Yeah, and there's a little bit more to it than that. We'll talk a little bit about that in the next couple of minutes. A lot of First Amendment issues come down to, one of the big issues is whether the state is taking action against you because of the content of your message, or whether it's content neutral. Okay, and it sounds, from what you're saying, it sounds like they're kind of targeting your message of anti-gun, and they're allowing the gun people to post what they want. Is that fair?
I think that's pretty accurate, yeah.
Well, they're not supposed to be doing that. They can have certain kind of regulations and stuff based on the time, place, and the manner of the message. And if they have like general restrictions, like you can't be out on the sidewalk at such and such and such time, but aren't specifically targeting a message, then that would be...
Who are the only people doing it? Who are they targeting?
We're
the only people there.
If they're only targeting you, and if they're only targeting you and leaving the gun people alone, even though they're doing similar
And
stuff.
then the posters. On the posters, I have the posters. There are posters for bands, and posters for lost dogs, and posters for yard sales. Why are we getting hassled?
See, that seems more like they're going after your specific content. They're going after what you're saying because of what you're saying, and they're not supposed to be doing that. Now, we can't jump to a conclusion just yet. We're going to have to definitely look at your posters. We're going to have to look at the gun nuts posters. We're going to have to see what other people are hanging up in the general area and do a lot of research on that sort of thing. But from what you're telling me, it sounds like they're going after your content specifically.
Can I ask you, did you bring any documentation with you of the posters or the citation?
No, I didn't bring any.
Okay, and we like you said, we'd like to see that and to be able to look that over. It's hard to give you a perfect answer without knowing the exact material that we're talking about. But,
Well, now I think sort of the problem is that the people who were the supporters, they don't want to show up anymore. They're afraid they're going to get arrested at the next funeral. Like we do something to stop them from arresting us.
See, you wanted to keep them from hassling you guys.
I mean, my supporters, most of whom are non-violent, do not like being arrested. They don't like the threat of being arrested, and now they're scared. They're not showing up anymore. They're not showing up to the meetings. They're not showing up for the Friday Main Street events. I can't get anybody to hang up posters anymore.
In law terms, that sounds like a chilling effect on the freedom of speech, which is, it's keeping people from expressing themselves, which the First Amendment is designed to prohibit. It's designed to keep the cops from doing that.
that's why you're here, I guess. Excuse me. I guess that's why you're here. So let's talk about a couple formalities or how we're going to proceed from here. Can I ask you maybe a more personal question about your financial status? Usually on a case like this, we're going to work on an hourly basis with our rate is $150 per hour. Doesn't seem like a lot up front, but it starts adding up pretty quickly. Is your financial situation a way that you could afford us working?
I don't like to have an open-ended amount running.
Fair enough.
Each time he's researching stuff and researching things on polls. I mean, he's running around taking pictures of polls.
And that would be preliminary research that we have to do on our own. We need to do some footwork here and some due diligence, if you will, to see if we want to formalize and form a attorney-client relationship. And that research that we do, you won't be charged for. We need to
It's part of the initial fee that you already paid for this meeting.
That's right.
So that's included. You guys are going to go downtown and take pictures of the polls?
It's on my way. I actually got to do some errands. It's no big deal.
All right, sounds great.
But let's talk about where we can go from here. Your court date is in December.
That's correct.
We're gonna have to do some work before then to try and present a defense and talk with prosecutors and see what we can see if we can figure something out and get that taken care of. And then beyond that,
I have a brother-in-law who kind of gets arrested a lot. So he tells me that lawyers will go to court and they'll cut some sort of deal, and I have to maybe pay him. I'm not doing it. I mean, it's gonna have to. I'm not taking any deal. I'm not pleading guilty.
okay,
We only do deals if you want them.
yeah, that's your decision.
All right.
We'll advise you if we feel like you're in for the long haul or whatever. We'll advise you one way or the other, but it's always your decision.
I want the case dismissed, and then I want to sue them.
Okay.
So I want to do.
Understand. Now, have you considered other options beyond litigation, beyond just filing a lawsuit and taking it to them that way? Would you be open to trying other methods to accomplish your goals?
Like what?
Well, I think that a lot of times these sorts of issues over the First Amendment we can try and work out with, you know, with face-to-face meetings, conferences, you know, letters, those sorts of things. I mean, before we just run to the court and file a complaint, I think that there's other things that might be more cost-effective and could be more efficient than running to court and just filing a lawsuit straight up.
Placate them after arresting me and my supporters and going through all this stuff. We're gonna what, send them letters?
Not placate,
No.
but tell them a letter explaining how that their actions are violating the First Amendment. Explain your situation.
Obviously, they don't care about that. They just arrested me. They just cited my people. You think sending them a letter, they're gonna say, "Oh wow, gee, we should do something because we got a letter." Really? They just arrested 6 of my people. I don't think a letter is going to really do a whole lot.
It is a useful first step, and if they ignore it, then we can move on to litigation.
So why not just cut out the BS step and file the lawsuit?
Well, there's the possibility that it might work. As small as it is, it could save you a lot of time and headache, because going to court is very costly. It's very time consuming.
I have time.
Okay.
All I do is take care of my sister who's in a coma. I have all the time in the world. I don't care about time, and I don't care about money. I want this thing straightened out. I'm looking for lawyers who can do it, not send letters to people.
Well, let's talk about litigation then. We could do a few things besides. Let's just skip the citation for now. If you want to get some immediate relief, what we could do is try to get an injunctive order to try to compel the police to back off a little bit, give you some leeway, and maybe try to get an injunction against the other group and make them stay off.
I have a funeral that we're going to in 4 days. Can you stop them from coming there and harassing us and arresting me?
I'm not sure just yet. I'll have to get back to you. I'll get back to you as soon as possible.
But these injunctions can work quickly. If we work that quickly, 4 days might be pushing it.
It is close.
But that's something we can look into and be in close contact over the next couple of days. But that's, like I said, 4 days is
All I
very
want
close.
is to be able to do what I understand I've always had the right to do, which is to protest, and that's what I want to do. I'm not asking for anything special. I'm not asking to march down the street. I'm not asking to block traffic. I'm walking on the sidewalk with a sign. It doesn't get any easier than that. That's all I'm doing. That's it. They can dance on the side of the streets buying jewelry by the end. They don't get hassled. You go to every intersection, people carrying signs and dressed up like the Statue of Liberty and for taxes, and all I want to do is go there and bring people's attention to gun violence, and I'm getting hassled. And you guys want to write letters to people.
I understand your frustration, and I think that we're trying to, having a lot of experience in this field, I think we understand the intricacies of litigation, how difficult it can be, not only for the case, but also on the client. And you mentioned, you know, some of the stresses that you're under, whether it's just the stresses of being hassled by the police, and you know, your tragic situation with your sister, which we, you know, empathize with, and I can't imagine how difficult that is. But I think that there's some ways which could be beneficial to you, despite, and if they don't work, you know, we can happily go forward with litigation and see what works. But yeah, but I think that we're trying, you know, as best we can to serve.
So you're saying that on Thursday we should go and have our protest and not worry about it?
No, we're not quite saying that. What we're trying to do is let you know that you have a lot more options than just immediately trying to sue. And we are just giving you all the options you have available. We're saying you still have the right. We would be happy to do that if that's the course you want to take. But you have more than just one gun in your holster. So if you pardon the analogy.
Just, maybe I don't want to sue. I want to protest gun violence, and they're not letting me. And if I have to sue them to be able to do that, then that's what I'll do.
Okay.
That's what I will do. And if, you know, and then while all this is going on, now I have to defend myself in a criminal court.
Okay.
And we can help you with the defending you in the criminal court as well.
And we will.
And do you have a date for that exactly?
It's December 5th.
Yeah.
December 5th.
So let me say one thing. I think that you just said something important. You said, you know, in the end, you just want to protest, Right.
But ultimately, I want to stop gun violence.
Well, understand.
But ultimately, that's sort of the way to do it.
Right.
I mean, I tried lobbying and all that stuff. That got me nowhere.
I understand. So as much as as you're set on litigation right now and you're upset about it, if there is another way that we can assure that you can protest and exercise your First Amendment right, would you be willing to
Absolutely.
take that out?
Absolutely.
Even if it's a letter?
If
If it is, and I understand that there's some skepticism there, but I think that if it's going to get your goal, would you support us in that?
Fine, get it done by Thursday. It's our next funeral.
Okay, so let's make a list from where we'll go from here. Okay, we're interested in representing you. You paid the fee for this consultation and some preliminary research that we're going to do. We'd like to prepare a retainer agreement by which we will there'll be a contract essentially. We'll have a retainer fee. Typically, our retainer is $1,500. Our first, I guess, it would be 10 hours of work would come out of that 15, and then from there on, we would stay in contact with you, let you know what our plans are as far as litigating, letters, these conferences, meeting with the other side, trying to get your goals accomplished. And from there, we bill hourly for $150.
How long does that go on until we have an answer of some sort? Meeting with people and sending
Sure.
letters?
Well,
I mean, is there some sort of time frame where I can tell my supporters, all right, they're not going to arrest you, the lawyer said it's okay, here's a letter, how long is that going to take?
I think we'd be lying if we gave you a date right now. I will say that I think that if we were able to accomplish our goals by means other than court, it'll be faster that way as opposed to filing a lawsuit
We're
and letting
talking
it drag
weeks, we're
on.
talking months, we're talking years.
If it's a court issue, it could be years, it could go weeks or months. Legal battles can get very drawn out, and they don't come with very clear answers immediately.
So you're saying that in order to protest, I have to risk getting arrested until you guys get this thing straightened out every week?
No, and that'll be our goal, is to get that figured out sooner rather than later, how we can assure that you're going to be safe to exercise that First Amendment right, and we're going to do that. So let's do this. You have our contact information, we have yours. We'd like to send you. Do you have an email address that you use frequently? Okay, so we have that. We will.
Is that your preferred method of communication?
It
Or?
is.
It is, that's how I prefer to and it's just marcus@hmm.com.
Okay.
Got it.
So what we'll do is we will send you a memo with not only kind of memorializing what we did here and what we've talked about here, also some of our.
So let me ask you this question. If I retain you guys, I mean, how fast till anything happens?
Well, the citation we'll take care of in December.
That's in December.
Right,
I'm
right.
talking, what are we gonna do now so I can start getting my people back out there?
Well, we'll start by drafting the letter that I know you don't like, but we could also consider making a meeting face to face to possibly talk to I'm not sure if it would be the head of, but we'll find out who the head of the enforcement division would be, if you'd like to actually speak to them face to face. And we would get started on this as soon as possible.
Yeah. And having attorneys come and talk to them and talk about the possible implications if they were to restrict your right to exercise your First Amendment right to speech, I think is more persuasive and helpful than.
The threat of a lawsuit can be just as persuasive as an actual suit sometimes.
So, and we'll work on that immediately, and we'll have some talks right now, and do a little bit of research, find out exactly what's going to be the fastest, best way to get you to be able to get back on the streets, and that sounds like what you want to do. So we'll talk about that and include that in the email. We'll also send along with you a draft of the retainer agreement. Look it over, see if it's all acceptable to you, and then emails back and forth. We can call, and we'll see the best way. Like I said, with a little bit more work on our part, we can get you the best idea of what'll be fastest for you, so that you can get what you
Great,
want.
so I can go back and tell all my supporters that we're ready to roll on Thursday then. Awesome. That's great.
Let's talk. Thursday's tough because we don't want to push you. You have a citation right now, and that may not be cleared up until December. So we don't want you to do anything that'll put you in further risk with that citation. But again, we need to do a little bit more upfront work with that and let you know whether you're safe on Thursday or not. So I would say don't tell your supporters right now. Don't start rallying the troops yet. But But with the email and a couple more phone calls, we can
We'll let you know before Thursday
figure
for
out
sure.
what's best.
All right.
And
Okay.
there's a few more bits of information that I could use. Do you have the address of the church that you were at and some of the other ones, or maybe you could just send that to us later?
Sure. I have a whole list of all the churches that we've gone to.
Perfect.
And actually know some of the pastors and some of we've been to a couple more than once.
Oh, excellent.
Well, not excellent, because we're usually there because someone got killed by a gun.
Sorry.
Sure.
And if you have any photos of your protests and anything like that, or video or stuff that you were posting on social media, we'd like to look at that as well. And maybe some information about the opposing groups as well.
I don't know anything about that.
Okay. Well, and let us flesh it out. We'll send you an email, almost a checklist, okay? And if you can get back with us and give us some of this information that you have, what you don't have, we'll make do with what we have. And in that correspondence and in that communication, we'll get back to you about Thursday and give you a better idea. We don't want to tell you to do something right now that's going to come back to hurt you. Okay. So we'll do that in these next conversations we'll have.
I know that, but I think it's not fair to the family who has a funeral on Thursday that we're not going to be there. I think we have to be there. So we do.
I understand, but we need to look out for, and I think you understand. You need to look out for what's best for you. And to some extent, it's a selfless thing you're doing. You're not worried about yourself per se, but to keep, I don't want to have any issues with the citation and any warnings and going up against it this soon. I don't want to hurt your future possibilities of rallying your support like you want to do. Okay.
All right. Very
Okay,
good.
we'll leave it there. I appreciate your time, Mark. We'll be in contact, and we'll get back to you very shortly.
All right. Very good. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Thank you very much.
Right this way.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Well, so do you want to spearhead the preliminary research we need to do?
Yeah, I have some errands downtown anyway, so I'll just take some pictures on the way there, get the address, see if the signs are still up.
Yeah, let's. I don't know if if any of your contacts you have can give us some good information about the fastest way to be able to get him back out there. It seems like his biggest interest. I think we need to look a little bit more into the funeral aspect.
For sure.
That's touchy.
See if he's gone to that one before, like maybe if he has a good relationship with that. He hasn't actually talked about like the relationship with those priests or whoever owns the churches.
Sure.
Might be worth investigating. Also, I'm going to do some opposition research about whatever groups were showing up. There might be something I can dig and see if they've had any run-ins with the police too, see how fair they're treating them.
Sure. And for the immediate couple days, or in the next couple hours, I guess I need to, just kind of edit our retainer agreement we usually send out, email it over to him, and just make a memo, and we'll be talking over the next couple hours and days about advising him as far as Thursday goes.
Yeah.
And then his best course of action as far as getting back on being able to protest as soon as possible. All right.
That might be the risk that even if he does everything right, he still might get arrested if he goes out there. And
Yeah, we need to look.
we might have to let him know about that too.
Yeah.
It's a possibility. He's not going to want to hear that possibility, but we're going to have to break it to him gently.
Right. All right. Done.
All right. They're done. You guys can applaud, give critique.
Are we giving critique these rounds?
Yes, you are. But there's a lot of you, so don't each should be going for minutes and minutes and minutes.
I guess I've been known as the mean judge, so I just wanted to tell you that, I had at least the chance to see you in the last round. I nitpicked on your presentation. I saw you this round. Much better, okay? I don't know if you were focusing it on it this time or because of the spatial circumstances that you're in these particular seats, but great improvement. So, I think that the progress from the last one that I saw to this one is great.
Great.
excellent job on where's the citation, when's the date, when's the hearing. Okay, you need to know all those things, and you guys picked up on that very quickly. You know, you got a client whose liberty's at stake, and you made sure that you had those dates ready, and you know where you had to make appearances, and that those things were ready to go. That's very important. I also liked how you didn't recognize it at first, and I was wondering if you're going to get there, but you started to recognize the danger of intertwining this civil action, which you've got, you know, two different cases. You've got a criminal defense case, and you've got, you know, sort of a 1983 civil rights type of thing. You recognize the danger of intertwining those, which is very important, because if he is, how's one going to have effect on the other? I think that you picked up on that very well. I like the mention of the injunctive relief, because I think you recognize very well that this guy wants speed. Okay, he wants speed, he wants something done, and the injunctive order, whether it's going to be a motion in the criminal court or whatever it is, but you know, his goals were to get out there and start protesting, and you're trying to tame him to the extent of, okay, we want you to do that, but we need to make sure that you're protected before you go out and do that. I think that was recognized, and you did that very well. You had a little bit of issues taming him. He was a little rough, and look, like I said, I'm usually a little bit harsher, but I think he did an excellent job doing it. You walked the line with him, and you played the role of being assertive with him, and at the same time, you know, kind of bringing him down to earth a little bit. My only thing that, you know, I think he did so well that this is the only thing that really stuck out to me is, do not let him control the fees, okay? If you're gonna, this job that you're doing for him, he's making it your top priority right now, okay? He wants you to go out and take pictures of this. You've got a criminal action. You've got, you know, he's gonna go out and protest. Okay, so you go out and wait in the lobby and you sign the fee agreement, and then you pay the retainer, and then we're good to go, okay? You're not gonna do, maybe I'm a little bit too harsh, but you're not going to go do work for him for free. But I realize that you know, you guys are students. You really, you know, don't focus too much on that yet. But that's really the only thing that really stuck out to me is, you know, you're willing to go to bat for this guy. You're willing to do it quickly. You're willing to take the litigation. Well, he's got to be willing to pay. And he's got to be willing to do it quick. Okay.
Start off by saying great job as well. Couple of things. You started off with a lot of closed-ended questions, and I saw you sort of grow from that and start asking questions that were going to get him talking. And I know it didn't take much to get him talking, but with client interviews, it can be difficult sometimes to pull it out of them. This obviously was a different type of circumstance, but just, you know, closed-ended questions aren't always where you want to go. And I think you picked up on that and sort of went from there. As far as note taking, I think that would have helped out in a couple spots, because you had to ask him twice for pretty important information. I mean, court date, and then at the end, what was the court date again? You know, that type of thing. You know, the name of his business, or I'm sorry, his organization. That's one of the first things that you write down. But that way, the client knows that you have it. Halfway through the interview, you're not, or the meeting, you're not asking again, what's the name of the organization? When are we supposed to be in court for you again? That type of thing. So those were sort of the negative aspects that I saw, but along those same lines, you did a great job bringing the client back down, reining him back in. It's tough when there's a client who's passionate about what they want to do, and they want to get excited about things, and I think you did a great job in bringing them back down to earth. The only other thing would be, for me, don't end questions in So have you had citations before, things like that? Just ask the question that you want to ask, and, you know, if you don't get the answer that you want, then ask another one. Don't just, you know, sort of give him an idea of what you're looking for, and then give him that open space to go where he wants with it. Ask what you want to ask and get the answer from him. Good job.
Well, I like to start the same way. I think you guys did an excellent job, and there were some moments when it felt like more tense, and you guys did a great job at fusing that, and I think that's what I appreciated throughout this entire interview. Some of the things that I noticed, you kind of picked up, you kind of skipped over the attorney-client privilege disclosure a little bit, but you did come back and get to that, so that was good. I didn't get your name.
I'm Brian.
Brian, Okay, I would not like point your shoulder away. This is just sort of an informal, non-verbal communication. I wouldn't point your shoulder away from the client when you're speaking. It kind of cuts off the communication a little bit, and the client like might react differently as opposed to if you're open to receiving the information and giving feedback. Calling the client man is also not a great idea. Even though the client might come off to be more informal, you still want to preserve that professional environment, and you're always the lawyer and you want to take the lead. And it goes into a lot of the other issues that some of the other judges talked about. And at the end, I felt like the client was really urging for sort of a timeline going forward, and you didn't quite answer that. I mean, you could have been like, okay, this is sort of a tentative timeline that we're going to work with, but once we get done with our research, we'll update you, we'll give you more information and so forth. Rather than just sort of leaving it open and kind of going back in your shell a little bit and be like, yeah, we can't promise or commit anything to you, because that sort of sends a negative message. But on the positive side, I think you guys did a great job spotting the relevant facts and going after that. I mean, there were times where the communication seemed to kind of stop a little bit, and then you guys, pushed for more facts, and then once you got to more facts, you went after that trail, and that was a great job. Trying to emphasize with the client, that was also good. Trying to relate to the client and see, because obviously this is a really sensitive issue and very personal issue, and I think you guys did a good job with emphasizing. Clarifying the client goals. I perhaps, maybe it's a personal thing, but I wouldn't be so direct as okay, so this is the primary thing, this is what I think the client made it pretty clear in terms of what the goals are. Other than that, yeah, excellent job. I don't know if you, in terms of timing, I mean, were you guys aware of how long it went? And
I think we had 35 minutes, and
Okay.
I think we went to...
Yeah, you had about 1 minute left.
Oh, we did? Okay.
Okay, so that was an excellent job that you guys did controlling the timing, and good job.
I guess everything already been said. I didn't have to take any notes. These guys did a great job. You did excellent job. I think that my two comments outside of what already been said, which I think was exactly what I wrote here, is that it took you, time, 23 minutes to get to the question of what the goal of the client is. In a regular practice, when you're out there, that's too long. If you're going to have each interview and it's going to take you 23 minutes to get to that, you're going to see 2 clients a day. That you're not going to, your doors will be shut in about a week. So get to that question a little faster. And you tried, and the client was not. They wanted to talk about what they're doing, which is great. And you need to be compassionate about that, but you need to bring them back into why they're here for, and then you can explore everything else once you know what you need to do. So while they're talking, you're thinking, so that when they stop talking, you can actually give them the timeline and whatever else they need to do. I really like how you did the conclusion. You really brought him back and put him onto, okay, we're going to email you the list, we're going to give you this, we're going to give you that, which I think was very good. And the other point that I really liked is the fact that you actually brought the pay in so smoothly that the client was ready for it. So I think it was brought in at the right time, which not a lot of law students can do. So I think you did a great job there, so good.
I would reiterate, I think you guys did a wonderful job. I would say that the teamwork aspect was absolutely excellent. I thought it was very well balanced. I didn't feel that either one of you dominated the session. I thought you did a wonderful job of keeping it balanced. I would also say that you presented the alternative courses of action very well. You hammered it home that litigation is not the only option, that there may be less costly and less burdensome alternatives. A couple of things that I would mention, just constructive criticism points to improve on, is you're dealing with a gentleman who is very sensitive to the issue about gun deaths. And Brian, when you said you have several options in your holster, that I felt that to be very jarring.
I didn't catch that at the end.
And you did apologize for it right afterwards, but at the moment, it's sort of, that's the one particular sort of hot button issue for him. So I would be very careful with that if you're dealing with someone that's so passionate about the issue that they devoted their life to this. My only other criticism, constructive criticism, would be in talking about the fees. You mentioned at one point, oh, it's on my way home, I'll just take a photo. That sort of starts to seem like a slippery slope, like the other gentleman mentioned. You want to be very careful with ethical rules regarding fees and not start towards something more amorphous. You want to be very clear about that, and you did that towards the end. But overall, I think you guys did a wonderful job, great rapport, and a really nice job of dealing with a difficult, almost combative individual who's saying, I need to get back on Thursday. How are you going to get me back on Thursday? So, wonderful job.
Mr. Client, do you have a few words? Would you want to come down where I can get you on the camera? Here, just come stand somewhere over there.
I've been in that situation a lot of times, and sometimes the client is trying to take the horse and run the cart out of the room. So you guys did a great job, and I was, trying to be wiggly and flip-flopping on purpose, because you told me, I'm not sure if you'll be there by Thursday. I was like, great, can I go out on Thursday? I'll tell everybody I can be out there on Thursday. But that's what clients do to you sometimes. Like, hey, is my brother getting out of jail? He's not getting out of jail. Great, I'm going to pay you. When's he getting out of jail? Like, I just told him he wasn't getting out of jail. But that's what I was trying to do, and I think you guys did a great job of, it was slippery, and I was wiggly, and I was trying to mix it up. You guys handled it pretty well.
You were having fun with that, I can tell.
They'll take care of you in the hall. All right, thank you all very much.
Good job, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
K-A-H-N. My colleague.
Stephen Davis, S-T-E-P-H-E-N-D-A-V-I-S.
Okay. Davis Conrad.
Oh, he's probably out having a smoke. You want to run that side, see if you find Danny?
Yeah, he was having a smoke.
Oh, he's using the restroom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was out there with him.
Okay.
So shall we designate this as team number 2?
Team number 2.
Sounds good.
And when you judges, when you give the feedback next time, why don't you just quickly identify yourselves, just your name and where you work? I think that would be fun for the team to know a little bit who they're hearing from.
Definitely.
Come on. You ready, Mr. Timer?
I'll start with you guys. First word you said, I'll start the clock.
Mr. Winslow?
Yes, Marcus Mills, nice to meet you.
Hi, Gil Collins.
Nice to meet Davis and Brown. Nice to meet you, Gil.
This is my partner.
Mr. Winslow, my name's Steve Davis. How would you prefer to be called?
You can call me Marcus.
Marcus, you got it.
Wonderful, please. We have some water here for you. If you need anything else, coffee, let us know about everything.
Sounds good.
Did you find the building all right?
I did, no problem.
Excellent. Before we jump into stuff, just a little bit about yourself. Are you originally from our state?
Say it again.
Are you originally from our state?
I am. I've been here for my entire life.
Wow, it's really rare in our community, actually. We just don't see it so often. And do you have family in town?
I do.
Excellent.
I have a regular, my family's here. I have a sister who's in a vegetative coma at the convalescent home.
Hear that?
Unfortunately. Well, before we get started here today and have you tell us why you're hearing your story, I'd like to start off with confidentiality real quick. And just in brief, what it is that attorney-client privilege is the idea that what you say here is confidential. It's between us. Now, there are a few small exceptions to that. If you start getting close to those exceptions, we'll stop you and we'll let you know. But we just wanted to let you know that what you say here is confidential and won't go beyond these 4 walls, okay? Do you have any questions?
Nothing, I'm good.
All right.
Just to give you a quick overview of what we're going to be doing today, Marcus, we've allocated about 30 minutes for this meeting. It's going to be completely, we turn on our phones, we're not doctors, no pagers. We're going to start off by letting you obviously tell your story, it's most important. And we're going to ask just follow-up questions to kind of get those details. And at the end, we're going to try to get a sense of what are your goals, what do you want us to do for you, and how do we get those next steps to get there, and really make sure that you leave today with a sure sense in your mind of where we're going from here. Does that sound fair?
Sounds great.
Excellent.
Okay, this is a free consultation, and we'll discuss more about fees and retainers at the end, okay? I'm gonna start off, do you currently have an attorney, or have you seen an attorney about the issue you want to talk
The
about?
first guys that I spoke about.
Excellent.
Outstanding. So, tell us, what brings you in today?
I have a citation for a public disturbance
Okay,
infraction,
okay, and what's the citation?
disturbing the peace.
Okay, and tell me the background, what happened when you were issued the citation? Where was it at, what was going on?
You know, I'm kind of pissed off because I have an organization called How Many More, HMN.
Okay,
And I was telling my sister's in a vegetative coma, and she was shot at the mall. So, I started this organization to sort of stop gun violence.
okay,
So originally, the plan was to, do some lobbying and change some of the gun laws, and that wasn't going so well. So I decided we're going to do more of a public grassroots approach. Had some political background, so I figured we'd just apply the same theories to principles to a grassroots organization.
Okay.
So what we would do is we'd read the paper on Sunday night with all the shootings from the weekend. We would get these victims of gun violence who put their face on a board poster, and we would go to the funerals. And we would actually show out. We would assign them. This is number 53. This is the 53rd person killed by a weapon. We were doing this for a long time, and then so get some social media involved, and then other people would come to the protests, and things were going pretty good. And then we started putting up Friday at 4, between 4 and 6. The supporters would line up on Main Street with these pictures, because they don't just sit in the garage anyway, with the various victims and all that stuff. So we'd hang up posters, basically a grassroots type of thing. Generally in front of the churches, we'd go to the funerals, peaceful protests, silent marching,
Sure.
no hooting and hollering, anything like that. The families didn't always like what we were doing, but they understood, what our goal was, and they didn't really bother us too much.
okay,
I mean, things are going pretty well. The supporters are starting to build up, and then one day, all these pro-gun people show up,
okay,
and generally our group has always been pretty peaceful. I mean, there's some social media. Some people would show up and they would get a little bit rowdy, but once we told them the rules and things about not making a lot of noise in front of a church or a funeral, they sort of calmed down. But the First Amendment people, they show up with these giant cardboard cutouts of guns, and that starts to escalate. Now we've been doing this for a long, long time. Cops show up, and then they start, say, hey, you got 5 minutes to get out of here, I'm going to arrest you.
okay,
What are you talking about? This is a public sidewalk. You can't arrest me on the public sidewalk.
yeah,
And, they arrested me, and they arrested some of my supporters. So now I'm cited for, I don't have any criminal, I have no criminal background. I'm not pleading guilty, so,
okay,
understood.
Okay.
And well, then another thing is then they start telling me that I got to take my post. I can't hang up any more posters. I can't do the picketing on the 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock Friday rush hour. So they're hassling me.
okay,
Marcus, we're getting a good sense of why you're frustrated. That's one of the first things you said, that you're pissed off, is your own words, so we're getting a sense of why, and with great validation. Before we move on to some specifics, we always like to take a few moments to recap for the reason, making sure we haven't missed any key details or misunderstood it. So if I understand, you started an organization, how long ago, I'm sorry?
It's been about 4 years.
4 years. How many more against gun violence? And that was as a response to what happened, the tragedies with your sister.
That's correct.
Your primary methods of approach are the protesting at the vicinity of funerals of gun violence, and you're saying Main Street from 4 to 6 p.m. Everything was going smoothly. What from my
We're
understanding?
doing banners. We were posting banners on
Okay.
poles and trees and stuff like that.
Everything was going smoothly the last few years until recently the advocates for guns started to also show up, from my understanding, at the funerals.
That's correct.
You got a little rowdy, and eventually the cops came in, did arrest you, even though you were, from my understanding, public property.
That's correct, on the public side.
Public side of it, and then after, not only were you issued a citation, but you were also given a warning to discontinue these modes of operation, the posters, the
Well, they told me I had to apply for a permit.
permit. Okay.
Oh, they must have a permit.
Did
And
you-
then, the permit got rejected.
Did they say what?
No, they just said,
Okay,
it was denied. It only took them 3 days to deny it.
okay.
And who was the permit through? What entity?
It was the City Department of Licensing
Okay.
or Special Affairs or something, I forgot what it was.
Do you have a copy of that permit? Did you bring any
I
documents?
didn't get a permit.
Okay.
They didn't give me the
You didn't,
permit.
you didn't keep a copy of it? Okay.
There's no permit to give you a copy of it. I didn't get a
You
permit.
mean the paperwork, any background up to that moment, the citation of that?
Yeah, no, I didn't bring the, you mean the application?
Yes.
I didn't bring it.
Any other documents you just happened to bring with you today?
No, I didn't bring anything.
Okay. No problem at all.
So go ahead. When you were protesting on the public sidewalk in this incident where you were arrested, what exactly was being said on your organization's and in your behalf? And what were you saying? Were you chanting
We
slogans?
weren't doing anything. We were just doing our silent
Just silent?
protest.
Okay.
And then the gun people show up with these giant cardboard guns, and they start pointing them at our people, and of course our people are getting intimidated.
Sure.
And then the cops show up, and
Mhm.
just
Was the counter protest, those gentlemen, were they fairly rowdy, fairly rambunctious?
they were rowdy. I mean, they were rowdier than we were. I mean, there wasn't any fighting or anything. There wasn't any violence.
But there was yelling and things like that going back and forth?
Yes.
Okay. Was it a possibility that the police confused your two groups and just started grabbing whoever was close?
I don't know.
Okay.
To follow up with that, you mentioned your members of your group. Was the entire group of your group arrested?
Well, they said we had 5 minutes to scatter.
Okay.
And I said, you can't make a scatter. This is public sidewalk. I can sit here. The cop's like, you got 5 minutes to get out of here. We're gonna arrest you.
How many police officers were there?
Probably about 6.
6. Do you have any of the names of the arresting officers by chance?
One of my supporters has it.
Okay, we can easily follow up and get that information. So at the time that you were arrested, well, let me back up. At the time when they came and told you to scatter, was the other group still there?
Yes.
Okay, and were they also given the same instruction?
They said everybody's got to get out.
Everyone.
Right.
Did the other group leave, scatter?
Some of them did.
Okay, and were the ones who remained, were they also arrested, any of them?
I don't know. I was in the back of a squad car, so I don't know what was going on with the other people. But
Okay, we understand it's a very stressful
I think
situation.
some of those got arrested as well.
Oh, do you know the names of any of these people in the counter group and the counter protesting group?
I've never seen them before.
Okay.
This was the first time you'd encountered them?
It is.
Okay. Can you tell us a little more about your organization? We understand it's been around for 4 years. Are you the sole founder?
I'm the sole founder.
And how about today? Are there other leaders in the group?
Well, we have a bunch of supporters, some family victims of other gun violence, family members, some other organizations, some small business people.
And your supporters, do you know approximately afterwards how many of them were arrested?
But now, about half a dozen were arrested. But the problem is that now, nobody wants to show up for the Fridays events anymore. No one wants to show up anymore and hang posters. No one wants to go to the funerals anymore. And we have an event on Thursday, and they don't want to go because they're afraid they're going to get arrested.
Yep. Totally can understand that.
A little timeline. When did the arrest happen?
It was last week.
It was last week, about a week ago. And then you shortly thereafter, if I understand, applied for this permanent. It took 3 days, you said?
3 days for them to reject.
Rejected. Okay. And your event is this coming Thursday?
That's correct.
And can you tell us a little bit of the nature of that event?
We're going to be at a church, carrying signs for the victims who were shot.
There isn't anything, and I have to ask these questions just to understand, there isn't anything that would be considered offensive or inflammatory on these pictures?
It's just
the
the
picture
of the victim and the number of the fatality for that particular year.
Okay.
Has your group had any previous incidents with either the legal authorities or other protest groups?
Nope.
This is the first kind of incident of its kind?
First one. I mean, I think as our group started to get more and more popular, I think somebody dropped the dime. Was it somebody at the city hall or one of the cops or somebody? I think some of the gun activists are probably pushing this.
What gives you that impression? It's your gut or something else?
Most cops are members of the NRA, right?
Can you tell us a little more, and I'm sorry, I know this is a sensitive matter about your sister, we're just trying to make sure there's, just get the full picture of this, of what led to you starting this organization.
She was shot at the mall.
This was about 4 years ago, you said?
Correct.
And what happened in that case? Was there any, in terms of, did you find the perpetrator? Was he
No, nobody was ever found. And she was just taken to the hospital, and she was brain damaged, and they thought she was going to pull through, but she's never quite recovered.
A big question is, in terms of your organization, who would you say is your target audience? Who's your market? When you go to these funerals, per se, for example.
Well, I don't know. We have a target market. We're not selling soap. We're trying to stop violence in the community. So we're doing whatever method we think will work. The political lobbying didn't work. The coffees didn't work. And all that stuff works. We're basically taking it, to the streets, and that was actually working for a while. And now, with the cops in the city, now that they're trying to thwart that avenue. And so, we have a funeral on Thursday. So we want to get there on Thursday without being hassled by the cops, because my supporters are calling me. I mean, my supporters are kind of, they're generally non-confrontational. They don't want to be arrested. So now they don't want to show up anymore.
Other than the arrest and the denial of permit, has the police department of the city done any other actions against your group?
Yeah, they told me we couldn't hang signs anymore.
Okay.
Now, I mean, you go down the street, it's got signs for bands and signs for lost dogs, and they're not getting hassled. You drive around, you got the guy dressed up like the Statue of Liberty with the tax information, and the people buying your gold, they're not getting hassled. Why are we getting hassled?
Right. Okay. After you got arrested, was there anything else significant that happened to you? Can you go through? So you were arrested, and then
I was arrested, and then I was released. I was given a date to come back to court.
And when is that date?
December 5th.
Okay.
What, and I know I touched on this a little bit in terms of your rights, and you're not selling. So, what would you like your outcome of your group to be? What's your immediate goal? And you said you want to change, you want to make a community impact. Are you looking to have laws passed? Are you looking to, what's your immediate goal?
We're political action. It's not really a committee. We're not registered or anything like that. But we're trying to bring the community's attention to the fact that, every weekend, there's 5 or 6 people getting shot.
Yeah.
And, people go to the hospital with medical bills and all these things. And if we can save one person, especially kids playing with guns. And, you want to go to have a sad day, go to a funeral where a bunch of kids have been killed with a gun.
Yeah.
And nobody seems to care. They all just sort of,
Yeah, it just keeps going on and on and on. All right.
Just, give us some more information, Marcus, so a little recap, again, just to make sure we're not missing anything. So, your big concern is you want to continue. Obviously, you're very passionate, very clear that you're passionate about a cause that's very near and dear to your heart, very important to our community. You want to continue what you've been doing, including both this funeral.
We have a funeral on Thursday.
Yes.
We gotta be there.
Absolutely. And you feel that you are being, if I understand correctly, specifically targeted and your rights are being abridged by the local police. Is that?
I don't think, I know.
Is there anything else that we're missing? Anything else you'd like to, as insignificant, or seemingly related or unrelated, with that?
Pretty much is it. They tell me I have to get a permit, and they deny the permit, and they tell me I can't hang up posters, but everybody else can hang up posters. They tell me I can't walk in we can't have signs, but apparently the guy at the mall selling jewelry, he can have a sign up. It's ridiculous. And now all my supporters are all flaking out. They don't want to show up anymore. So I need to tell them, okay, Thursday's cool. The lawyer says it's all right.
So essentially what I'm hearing is that right now your immediate goals, and please correct me if I'm wrong, and we'll get into some more open in just a second. You want basically our legal opinion at this particular moment that your protest on Thursday is going to be legal.
I know it's legal. I have the First Amendment right to protest. I don't want to be hassled. And the second thing, this ticket coming up in December, I'm not pleading guilty. I'm not pleading guilty to anything.
Right, and the ticket's the second part, but you also want the harassment to end as well, correct?
That's correct.
So between the harassment, is there any other goals that you have?
Well, ultimately, I want to stop gun violence, but, you know, I can't get there from here with all this BS in between.
Okay.
So if we're seeing this correctly, we have two obviously related but independent at the same time issues. One is obviously your upcoming event on Thursday, which you're looking for us, I'm sorry, I'm rephrasing a little bit. You're looking for us to say, you know what, absolutely, here, these are within your rights. Secondly, there's the more personal issue, which is your citation that you want to plead not guilty to.
Not only I want to plead not guilty to, I'm not going to plead guilty to.
Absolutely,
Right.
That's coming across very clearly.
And third, I think he also wants to correct me if I'm wrong, sir, that you want the police harassment of your group to end.
Right, and the city's harassing me, tell me I need a permit for, I'm not having a parade, I'm just doing what I'm entitled to do. Just walk down the sidewalk silently holding a sign.
Yeah.
So, you know, for your media goals, I'm very glad you came to us today. I know it's the weekend, but I think we can give you some very general assurances, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But in general, first, I think, Steve, you want to talk a little bit about our policies?
Yeah, so, in terms of
our arrangements fees.
Oh, okay, yeah, the retainer fee. So our retainer is $500 is what it is. And then, which is basically like a deposit, and then our hourly fee is about $175 an hour. And so once you sign a fee agreement with us, then we can go ahead and we can start to represent you in the matter of your citation.
Well, that's all great. The citation's up till December.
Sure.
I have a protest on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
And my phone is blowing up with people saying, we're not going until we know it's safe to go.
Sure. And there's a couple of things that we need to take a look at. We need to get the address of the church. We need to double check and take a look at your signs, because we can't agree to anything and give you our legal opinion until we see those signs.
Signs on the internet, you can pull it right up. It's the same signs we've always had. It's just a face and a number.
Okay. And then we also need to take a look at the property lines at the church on the back of the sidewalks and make sure that you're in the public right of way and not on private property. We do need to check those things before we give you our legal opinion.
So we're gonna get a survey, or what are we gonna do?
No, we just take a look at the GIS information map from the city.
Very simple things, but just
Alright.
we need to be
They're
thorough.
gonna charge me to do that, to look at the property lines of the church?
Well, that's only a very preliminary look. That's the easy things that are.
And so you tell me I can be walking down the street on the sidewalk and I can be on the church property? If the church isn't complaining.
No,
church
if you're on the
didn't ask.
sidewalk, it shouldn't, but you don't pay us to guess, do you? Right? Do you want us to guess, or do you want us to give you certain legal, that's part of what's going on, right?
I mean, I'm sort of, there's a sidewalk that everybody walks down.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Again, you're paying us to, if you are taking us as your attorneys, to be thorough and understand the issue specifically. So, what my partner here is saying is that you want us to give you a very general overview based on information, purely information you're telling us. Yes, you're 100% within your rights, but you knew that before coming in to speak.
All right, so but this is the deal. I got that. It doesn't make any difference if I'm 100% within my right and the cops show up and say to my protesters, you got 5 minutes to get out of here, I'm gonna start arresting you again. I mean, a lot of my clients don't have, a lot of these supporters don't have a lot of money. They can't afford lawyers to go out and pay legal fees every time they get arrested. They don't have it. So I need to tell them, okay, we're cool, it's good.
So what we do then is we turn around and we send a demand letter to the city, and we tell them that you're gonna plan to protest and to approve this permit. And if they don't, then we either have to consider other methods of getting them to force us to.
So you're gonna send the city a letter.
Oh, first off,
Well,
Sorry,
do you have something?
I'd like to sue them so they stop hassling me.
Okay, well,
I
now
don't
you're
think a
talking
letter
about.
is going to do it.
Well, we.
Obviously, the police didn't care about our First Amendment rights. I don't think they're going to be stopped by a letter.
Okay. But litigation is lengthy, it's expensive. If we can reach a agreement with the city before that
I don't
happens, it
care
may be
about
faster.
length.
It'll
I
be
don't-
cheaper, you'll be back out
I
there.
don't care about cheaper. I don't care about length. All I do is take care of my sister. I've got all the time and all the money in the world. I want my right to go there and protest on Thursday and not be hassled. That's what I want.
So we're hearing you correctly, Marcus, and we're your advocates if you take us on. So we don't want you to feel that we're fighting you here. We're just trying to present you with all the options. Option one was the easy approach. Let's send a letter, let's make a phone call, let's see if they back off. If you want us to go, to use a colloquialism, to the mattresses, we'll go to the mattresses for you. That's not a problem. We're just trying to assess what your
my
immediate goal is.
supporters are under the feeling or the belief, these are very non-violent, non-confrontational people. They don't, and they not only do they not want to get arrested, they don't want the confrontation. They don't want to have this confrontation with the police, and they don't want to get arrested, and they can't afford lawyers.
Right.
So they need to know. They need to be certain. Thursday, they're good.
Then
That's what we need.
We can start taking a look at filing a preliminary injunction and see if we can't get the courts involved in this.
And basically getting an issue, what that would mean, Marcus, is basically the court saying directly to the police, back off.
All right,
So that's
great.
not us saying that, it's not you saying it, that would be the court system
That's
saying it.
awesome. That'd be great, so I can tell all my supporters we're good.
If that's what we're understanding.
Once the court signs that piece of paper, then yes, you're good. But don't tell them they're good until the courts get that piece of paper. Does that make sense?
All right, so wait a minute. So they can't protest on public sidewalk and underneath the
you're
constitutional
trying
rights
to
until the judge tells them that they can do that. I thought it was in the Constitution.
If you are trying to prohibit police involvement up front and say, guarantee the police are not going to come harass you, you're gonna want that piece of paper signed by the court. Does that make sense?
I thought-
You can go protest on Thursday, nobody's stopping you. But if you're trying to prohibit up front the police from harassing you during that protest, you'll want that piece of paper
So
signed by the
what
court.
do I tell my clients? That you have a constitutional right to protest on the sidewalk, but only unless the police show up, and then you don't unless the judge signs a piece of paper?
Well, you have the
What's that?
constitutional right, but on the other side of that, they may arrest it, it has to be adjudicated through the courts.
So, Marcus, we don't have to tell you something right now, it's a complicated issue. On one hand, you're absolutely right, you have your constitutional rights, on the other side, you have to follow lawful police orders. The question is that lawful? Nobody cares what two attorneys said, it matters what the courts say. So, and that matters, your rights are your rights, but you need them enforced, and that's what the legal system is here for. That's what we're here for as advocates for you in your group, is to say, enforce this group's right, enforce Marcus's rights. Does that make sense?
Great. Sounds great.
So this is from what we're understanding, these are your goals. You want the police to back off. You want not only Thursday to happen, that's the immediate goal, but in the future. And obviously, we also have this issue of your citation, but that's a little bit down the road, so we'll deal with Thursday first.
And then
Is
we've
that
got
fair?
the Friday, banner walk that we do every Friday. We've been doing that for months without a permit. No one's even requested a permit. We will be able to sign up and hang up our posters just like everybody who's lost a kitten. I mean, they can hang up their posters.
And you're planning that for this Friday as well?
Yes.
So we'll treat that as, Stephen, we'll treat that as one issue. So if I'm understanding you correctly, Marcus, I'm sorry if we're being redundant, you want us as soon as possible to take legal action to get a court to ensure that you have every legal right and prevent the police from arresting you for unlawful.
The rights I already have had. Or I've
Absolutely.
always had.
Enforcing those rights, that's our main
correct.
point. So we're on the same page. So this is what's gonna happen next. We're gonna do, before we do any type of injunction, we have to get our I's dotted, T's crossed. I'm sorry, before we do any kind of action with the court, we have to get our I's dotted, T's crossed, do our legal research. That's our step one. That's what we discussed previously. Next, again, it's weekend, so we won't be able to get before judge at best until Monday. So how about this? What I'm understanding in terms of our plan of action, we're gonna have to do this is very time sensitive, we'll do our research as soon as we leave for you today. We'll have an answer for you on Monday, late afternoon, about where we're at in terms of our research and then going before the court. It's a two-step process. Does that make sense?
Well, this is the problem, is that people need to make plans to get off of work on Thursday. And, I don't know if I'm gonna tell them to hang out till what, Tuesday? Wednesday?
We're gonna push it as fast as we
And
can.
then you got the other gun gun, they have all these cardboard guns and all these cutouts. Nobody's hassling them.
Yeah.
We understand. Marcus, we understand. You see this as an injustice. It sounds to us like an injustice. And we're here to use the legal system to help you prevent that.
Yeah.
And we're making this a priority. As you see, we're meeting with you on the weekend. We heard from our secretary, this was a very special incident that we care about, anyone's First Amendment rights, and that's why we're meeting with you, and that's why we're gonna make it a priority. And work as fast as we can within the legal system's parameters to get you the answers you need, and get those answers to your supporters.
All right, by Thursday. So I'm gonna tell them it's good, it's green light.
Don't tell them until we have the signed piece of paper. We go as fast as we can, but the courts move at their own speed. It's like a string, you can't push a string.
You can tell them here, this is, if you want to break it down, Marcus, we can give you an answer, again, by Monday, of our opinion, a predictive answer. The court will take the court's time, but we can generally say, yeah, we'll probably have an answer for you. That will probably be in there for you this week. But if what a green light is, again, we're not trying to mislead you. We can give you our predictive answer by Monday. Everything will follow from there.
What happens if you tell all your supporters to show up on Thursday and the court hasn't signed that piece of paper and we can't push it underneath an officer's nose? I mean, do you tell your guys to go
They have a
home?
First Amendment right to walk down the street with a sign.
They do. And if it goes to court, they'll probably win based upon what we know. That being said, that doesn't prevent the police from telling them either scatter or arresting them and then citing.
Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Unfortunately, it's the legal system.
You know, that we've been doing this for months and months and months, then all these other people show up and they raise all this commotion, and then we have to pay for it. We have to deal with all this. We have to pay all the legal fees. We've been doing this for 4 years.
Yeah.
Marcus, we agree with you fully. If you don't have to convince us, we're, like I said, I began this conversation with telling you we're your advocates. If you decide to take us on clients, which is a decision we're going to have to make at the end of this meeting if we want to proceed, but we don't have the power to enforce your rights without going through the legal system. We are the ones who understand the legal system, are paid to understand the legal system.
Don't you know anybody downtown? Can't you call somebody? We have to
We will do what we can within the confines of the legal system.
We did offer to begin with, again.
We want to send them a letter.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's the
right.
beginning. That's where that, we
Yeah,
sent a
letter.
letter, put everything in writing. We can definitely follow up with phone calls, if that's what you're willing to do, if that's what you'd like
All I
us to
want
start.
to do, really simple, on Thursday. That's it. Something I've been doing for 4 years.
And we will do everything to make that happen.
So we can start with that. We can definitely start with the letter and the phone call. Again, that's not going to guarantee you anything, but that's always a good first step. You know, it doesn't prolong litigation, it doesn't get into that stage. But again, we're trying to get you as hard a green light as possible. That you know you can walk into Thursday knowing these are my rights. No one's coming to arrest me if I'm acting within the limits of the law.
I thought I already had those rights.
You do. Again, you do. It's about spelling them out and waving them up as a flag.
Yep.
Does that make sense, Marcus?
I guess.
What questions do you have for us, if any?
Have you done this before?
Yes. Like I said, this is a passion of ours, and that's why we're coming to meet with you.
Have you ever worked with other like political organizations that sort of get to court to issue the piece of paper that we need?
More nonprofits than what you're describing yourself, although you're not the legal definition of a political action committee, but yes, and that's why we're
So, based on your experience, what's the timeline on something like this?
That's why we're saying to you early this week.
Yeah. You gotta get it in front of the judge. It depends on what the judge thinks about it. He may take a look at it and he's having a bad day and says, like, you know, that happens. You know, he may take a look at it and say, absolutely, he's 100% right, sign it, give it to Metro.
All right, very
Again,
good.
we're your advocates, so we have to make a decision. We've explained to you our fee structure. Again, this is just so time sensitive, we usually let you take this a few days to consider, but you have to make a decision whether you want to take this on as your attorneys, and let us continue this process and put down the retainer today.
How much you talking about?
$500 for the retainer.
Can I put down 250 and then bring you, say, 250 on Monday?
Absolutely. Is that fair?
Okay.
Yeah.
Before we fire the TRO. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's fair.
All right, very good.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
You want to hear from us? Before we forget, our card,
A wonderful weekend.
please call us if anything pops in your mind. If you get any phone calls from the police in between now and when we talk to
All
you,
right,
please,
I will call you.
we're the first person.
I'll call you first thing Monday morning.
We're your advocates. We're
8
here for
o'clock.
you.
All right, thank you very
Call you at
much.
7:58. Awesome. Have a safe drive home. Steve, I have to apologize. You know, we've been partners for a while. I was very gung ho. I jumped in a little too fast there, but I think I know you well enough that you would have agreed to that. But thank you for following up with that team. What do we think?
I think he's being unconstitutionally harassed. I think his First Amendment rights he's right on this case. There's nothing inflammatory. He's not threatening anybody. He's on the public right of way. This is the police. I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to maintain public safety. It sounds like the permit process is completely bugger all, and they're just denying it to try to stop this situation from happening. I think he's got an absolutely clear-cut case on it. Of course, you and I both know that we get a lot of people coming in here saying that they don't have the resources to pursue. So we either have to choose pro bono or we have to go ahead and drop the case. But he seems like he's willing to go. So if he's willing to go to war, let's go to war.
My main concern, you're right, let me first say, substantive law, he seems, he's saying, I know my rights. Yeah, he's right in many cases. The hard part is making him understand, yes, we saw that so much in this meeting, that, this is a process, and yes, his rights are his rights, but we have to work within the confines of the law to make sure they're enforced. So that's my big concern, is just, working with Marcus, and he's a great guy, and I understand he's coming from a very difficult place, and he's seeing red right now. You know, like he said, he's on the public square. He's fighting for what he sees as justice. And you know, the guy with the buy jewels and gold signs, getting, you know, being able to say whatever he wants, and he's getting arrested. So I understand his position, and you know, hopefully he digests on what we spoke about today, and I'll give him a call first thing Monday.
Whether you talk to him Monday, whether I talk to him Monday, we have to reinforce the fact, because I don't think he left fully cognizant of the fact that we really, if he doesn't want to be harassed that Thursday, he needs that piece of paper. He needs that injunction by the court. And so we need to reinforce that with him, because he sort of seems a little confused on that point to me, like he's deliberately, or I shouldn't say deliberately, but he is confusing several issues altogether.
Why don't we send a follow-up email as well? You know, I think it's always good to spell things out, right? Just have it on paper, electronically, and just make sure he understands what the process is, what the fees is. I think there are times where I'm not sure he was fully, you know, listening to what we were trying to convey. And again, I understand completely where it's coming from. It's a very personal issue.
I also want to see what this permit process that the city has,
Absolutely.
because if they looked at this for 3 days and then denied it with no seeming or what we have been told a reason, then that may be something we want to double check with him on. Is a little bit concerning to me, and that may be a violation.
Steve, how about we divide up like this? Why don't I start condensing all this information he's giving us into a memo format? Did we forget any paperwork? He said he didn't bring anything. What do we need from him?
He keeps talking about these signs like they're whatever. I want to put eyes on them, so either we need to get Lisa to pull up so I can take a look at these, but I don't feel comfortable putting anything on paper or approving anything or even saying anything until I see these signs with my own 2 eyes.
Yes, I agree 100%. I'd also say he keeps putting off the citation issue, but I'd also like to see it is independent and also related. I'd like to take a look at the citation. So how about I collect all that, I condense the facts. How about you start working on the, you know, I know your passion goal is the zoning, the First Amendment, the issues. We can start drafting together that demand later this afternoon?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Well, we're going to go straight to the court when they're doing the demand letter, but yeah. And we're not going to wait for the city to come back and say no in 4 days. We're going to go straight to the court and hold it in front of the judge and see what he's going to say.
Okay, what are we missing? What are we missing? That's what we always ask.
I think we'll find out the more we go through it. So,
Yeah. We just
all
didn't
right.
give him all the assurances he has. With that, quick bite before we get to work.
Let's go.
Ready?
See.
All right, and now we'll have some feedback from our judges. I don't know what order they're going to go, and I asked the judges to tell you a tiny bit their names and where they're from. Who's going to go first?
My name is Danny Ryan. I've been doing personal injury litigation. I also do civil rights stuff. It's more excessive force, not First Amendment. You know, I just want to tell you guys that you work great as a team. You have very professional demeanor. I like your body language. You're both very moved in, like position-wise, and you're getting good feedback from the client, and I like that. I think that you have a good rapport with one another in terms of you take over, okay, I'm fizzing out on questions here, you know, you take over, so I like that. You know, and I think that your empathy in regards to his familial situation and things like that, I think was very good. I think you also did, as difficult as it is, a good job of obtaining him in terms of his demands that he wants to be out on Thursday.
It's a rough guy over here.
and it's very important ethically, and you did it well, that you emphasize the importance of the injunction before he gets out there on Thursday. You could have done a better job in terms of explaining the process of the injunction, as in, I file it, well, they get an opportunity to respond, okay? And then they reply, but these injunctions are specifically meant to expedite the whole process. This is as fast as it gets. This is the fastest power that I have, but I guarantee you it's going to be filed. I like that you said, well, how about I get those fees before I fire off that injunction, okay?
But a partner.
But yeah, very important, okay? You're not working for this guy for free, and I think that the fee agreement was good, except in the sense of, I think I was a little vague on what the fee was the fee for both the injunction and the criminal defense case, or was it just for the injunction? You know, I think that was a little vague, so it might have helped to delineate the two, because you got two different cases going on, and you know, you've got also one, you know, they both can turn into a lot of work, so it's kind of important that you delineate that. These are some of the problems I had, okay? You cannot, when your main problem is him saying that he wants to get out there on Thursday no matter what, and you're reinforcing his mentality of doing that, and what I mean is, he's saying, well, I have a First Amendment right to be out there. You're saying, absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. These are the quotes I have from you. Well, no, not absolutely, not 100%. They're subject to restrictions. You've got issues where he got arrested where there might be speech that's inciting a type of riot situation, so they might be justified in getting him. You've got you know, speech maybe is it in a protected area, things like that. So maybe if you had delineated that more to him, and I know that it's hard. I know that especially, you know, dealing with that situation, it's difficult, but you have to realistically, you have to bring them down to earth, and you know, and the feedback too, you also have to, you know, the feedback or the meeting amongst yourself is also the time for you to, you know, grab onto that, and then, you know, just between the two of you guys, you have to also assess realism, and then, you know, you're sitting there going, well, I think his rights were violated, and, you know, you don't have a copy of this arrest report, you know, you need to know you didn't ask for the copy of the permit that got rejected, you know, maybe it got rejected because you didn't fill in or check the right box or something like that, I also would have liked to see a little bit more of the emphasizing of the intricacies between the civil and the criminal case, or whether or not you're going to be using the civil or the criminal area as a means to go forward. But I would have liked you to emphasize to him that, look, you're facing charges right now, and as much as you want to get out there and you want to protest, you not listening to me and not waiting for this injunction to go through means you could be subject to another arrest, and it could mean worsening charges that could affect you. Other than that, you know, those are pretty minimal critiques, but I think you guys did a great job.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Ian Houston. I mainly work in medical malpractice defense, insurance defense, things like that. So many positive things on here. I was just looking through while Danny was talking to find the negatives, and there are a couple just that I had. At one point, Stephen, you were sort of talking over the client, which with this client is understandable. But I mean, just, you know, something to look out for. And then I could tell at one point you were getting a little bit aggravated, and you said, "Do you have something else in mind?" As in, "Do you think you can do this better than me?" type of thing. And that was just it obviously that's not what you said. We were just kind of towing that line. I think that's sort of the tone that I got. But I mean, like I said, with this client, it's understandable. The recaps are good, but the recaps of the recaps of the recaps were a little bit much for me. But I mean, that's just a function of making sure that you're understanding exactly what's coming from the client, exactly what the goals are. So I get it. Just there were a few in there that I felt like sort of pushed it over the edge a little bit. And then in the post-interview discussion, there were a couple things that you didn't feel comfortable about the client understanding. And I don't know if I heard that, you know, whether I talked to him or you talked to him on Monday, we need to clear those up for him. And I think you mentioned an email. That email goes out that day, I think. So just, yeah, as long as that was part of the plan too, and you made that clear. It's just if your client ever leaves and you think that he doesn't understand something, especially something, you know, material and very important, which those issues were, he received clarification that day. Good job. Great job.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My name is Michael Lee. I work at Bogas Law Group. My practice primarily surrounds commercial litigation, specializing in real estate finance, guarantees, mortgages. Mostly we deal with commercial clients. So not so much familiar with the issues that we're talking about here today with your interview, but I just have to say you guys started off excellent, and you both exude confidence, and you both really control the environment, I think, throughout the interview. and your teamwork is great. You guys have sort of a passive-aggressive, sort of good cop, bad cop. It was really entertaining, and especially with this client, that was great. So some of the things that I wanted to note was, like at the start when the client is telling the story, I noticed Stephen was taking a lot of notes. He was pretty aggressive with the notepad there. I think you could have maybe made more eye contact, but the client felt that, you know, he was being understood, the communication was getting through, and not so much focus on just getting everything down. I think, you know, that your partner here, Gil, he did a great job. I actually really appreciated how you went and took each segment and just did a recap and made sure that you had the information so that your analysis would be more accurate and more complete. Because ultimately, you know, you want to give the client a good impression that you're getting all the information and you're not being redundant, but you're still here to solve a problem for the client. And you rather perhaps it's a delicate balance. You rather perhaps sacrifice the whole impression thing and making sure that you get the problem right and that you have all the right information and all the facts that you can take care of it correctly for the client. I thought it was kind of odd that you brought up the whole sister situation and right in the middle, and then it was a little awkward that you kind of just left it there and you didn't do anything else with it. I mean, it was obviously a sensitive issue for the client, and you guys sort of just extracted it, but you didn't really give any feedback with respect to that. Yeah, I felt like at moments, Stephen, you were just a little too imposing. I mean, I like how you control the environment, and with this client, it could be difficult, but you were almost doing a little cross-examination on him at certain times. And yeah, I agree with Danny that with some of the legal issues, with some of the conclusions, perhaps you guys were a little too rash in terms of committing to certain positions.
Okay.
And you know, where you could have told this is our tentative, this is what we see as how the legal issues might turn out, but on the other hand, you know, we need to do further research and make sure that this is right. This is the right conclusion that we can reach. But again, going back to the beginning, you guys had a very smooth beginning. You had a good icebreaker going and made the client feel, you know, comfortable. At the same time, I appreciate the students. You guys set a very professional tone. That whole impression is definitely important before you even start speaking, giving answers or giving questions. You know, that is the nonverbal sometimes gets neglected. That's about it. Yeah, great job.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Margaret Chernysheva. I'm with MC Law Group. We are 4 attorneys, strong boutique law firm that concentrate on immigration law. So I do both litigation and business cases, and basically sue the government, which I love to do. And that's kind of how this case is all about. I think that, again, the professional attire is very important. I would say that half of my clients don't leave my office without the contract because I make everybody in the office look professional, talk professional, be nice to them, ask them if they want water, etc., etc. So I really like how you started the conversation with being professional and making sure that you control the situation. Sometimes, Stephen, it did get a little more over to being over-controlling. Bill, don't point pen at the clients. I know you're trying to get the point, and it's always very good, but especially in some different cultures, pointing anything at the client is no-no. But at some point, I even felt uncomfortable when you were doing this to them, and you were trying to make him to understand that you understand his issue. But I would be a little more careful about that. It was interesting how you did bring him to actually agree to sign up with you, and at the beginning I felt a little uncomfortable because you said, well, you have to sign up with us today. The clients don't have to do anything. But then you brought it back by saying, if you want us to get it done right now, which is exactly how you want to do it, I would probably be a little more of bringing that point faster by saying, if you want us to start the work today, we can definitely do that, but you would have to sign up or give us the retainer today. I really like how you really mentioned the fact that before the motion is filed, the rest of the retainer has to be paid, because sometimes that, yeah, you may not see that half if it's already being filed. And the only other comment that I have is with the sister. You talked about the sister case, and right after that, your target and market. Again, this is a gun prevention target, and it's a market. We're talking about selling and giving, where he's talking about his paralyzed sister. So it's very difficult to not use those words, because we use them in many different aspects of our lives. But when you're talking to somebody who's this compassionate about something, you have to be very careful of what you tell them, because it might be a turn off and they will never come back to you just because they feel offended by those few words. Other than that, I really like, Bill, how you were the good cop and always brought back and calmed down the client. Almost every time there was a little bit of a peak, you calmed down the client to the point where he really sat back, thought about it, and continued on with his story. So you kind of carried on this positive environment. Stephen, I really like how you tried to iron out the points of why he's here, what he's going to bring. Now, I would like to compliment the witness to remind you about his citation, because you got so carried away with the First Amendment, or actually excessive force, just like it was mentioned, issue. You forgot about the citation, which is important. And yes, it's coming up in a month, which is very close. It's not far away. Now, he was pushing you in regards to the Thursday event, and you were trying to avoid it, but at some point, he almost got you to say that you will give him something that would be okay for him to go on Thursday. You would not know if the courts are going to go with you. I really like that you said, do you think the cop is going to actually agree to what your lawyer said? No, he will agree to what the court said, which was very good point to bring to the client so that they kind of wake up about it. But on the other hand, you need to be very careful with the fact that when you say, well, if the judge woke up on the wrong foot today or something like that, as you said, and he'll just throw it out, you don't want somebody so compassionate about their rights. You don't want them to all of a sudden disbelieve in the system. They're coming to you to hope that the system is going to be on their side. So that was one of the things that I kind of wanted to bring up. Other than that, I thought it was really well done, very professionally done. You ironed out all the details. You had him sign up with you, and well done job.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
My name is Miguel Escobar. I work for the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. The kind of work we do is that we enforce employment discrimination laws, federal employment discrimination laws, mainly Title VII and the Americans with Disabilities Act, also the Age Discrimination and Employment Act, and a couple other statutes. I would say that you guys did an absolutely superb job. I'm very impressed. Aside from a few minor critiques of constructive criticism, I'm ready to sign on the dotted line. I'm ready to hire you guys. Absolutely superb. I think you had a perfect introduction. I would not tweak it a bit. Absolutely perfect. And to echo what some of my colleagues have said, I like the yin and yang. Gil, you're a calming force. You're a tremendous calming force. Whenever I felt myself getting a little bit anxious with Marcus, Mr. Winslow, with his expectations, you brought him back down to earth very nicely. And Stephen, I think you did a wonderful job of keeping managing his expectations, of saying, look, it's what the court's going to decide. I do agree that you don't want to say, oh, the judge may be having a bad day, he'll throw it in the trash. But I think you did a nice job of managing his expectations of that this TRO has to go out, and it's going to be subject to judicial review, and whether the judge signs it or not, that's a real open question at this point. You still have to do your research to find out what's going to happen, but it's not good. He doesn't have the go-ahead, the green light to go on Thursday. One thing I would say one very minor thing that I would say, and I believe was mentioned before, I kept hearing the word recap. I want to see in that middle section a little bit more forward movement would have been nice, but that's not a very major issue. Overall, I think absolutely superb. I'm serious. I'm ready to hire you guys. Great job.
Any words in your own defense, Mr. Client? And who are you in real life?
I would say this. The advocacy for your client is great. You get a client who's that fired up, and you're adding fuel to the fire that says, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do the next thing. Now you have what was a small campfire is now going to start raging. Number one. Number two is, I hate to tell you this, clients don't tell you everything. You can't take what they say at face value. He's saying, oh, we were doing nothing, we were being peaceful, blah, blah, blah. There might be a police report that says, yeah, somebody picked up a bottle, but they don't tell you that. Oh, I don't think about any bottle, oh, I didn't see that, I don't know. So now you're saying, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. You don't really have all that information. And so if you add that fuel in this particular case, you're going to have this client calling you every day, everything. And when something goes off the track, guess whose fault it is? Your fault. I had all my First Amendment rights, and I was protesting, and things went fine, so I had these two schmuck lawyers who ruined my life forever.
And who are you in real life, sir? In real life, you got to fess up. Who are you?
Oh, my name is Joseph Scalia.
And your job?
I'm an attorney. I've been an attorney for about 20 years.
Excellent.
But I deal with a lot of the day-to-day, real-world people who come in with these sort of issues, and you just kind of make sure some clients need to be tamping them down. And some other clients who, you get that family court case, and they think that their world is over, you have to build them up. And a lot of that is sort of that rapport you have with the clients. You have to get a little bit of a sense for the people's good. That role I played is extremely volatile and extremely dangerous in a law office, because you really are playing with a hand grenade. You know what he's going to do. And this is the guy who organizes protests. You don't need him in front of your office in 6 months, Excellent.
Excellent. All right. Thank you all so much.
Thank you all.
Correct. I can add that.
All right. We're ready to get started for the final round of the final round.
Can we get your names?
Can we get your names, please?
Before? Yes, of course. I'm Brandy Loffer. It's Loffer.
And I'm Dawn Nielsen, Nielsen. Thank you. Okay,
Yeah.
hello, Mr. Winslow.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Dawn Nielsen.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too.
You can call me Marcus.
Thank you, Marcus. Please come in. This is my supervising attorney, Brandy Loffer.
Nice to
Brandy.
meet
Nice to
you.
meet you.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Good, good.
Well, actually, I'm not really doing so great.
No.
I haven't slept all weekend.
That's not good.
That's not good at all.
I got a citation. I've never been arrested before, so kind of stressing me out.
I can see that happening. I'm taking it that this citation is what's bringing you here to us today.
Yes, I got cited for disturbing the peace.
Okay.
Before we get started, if I can just tell you something very quickly that's important for you to know, that anything that is said here today in our office is confidential and will not leave our office. There is a privilege, the attorney-client privilege, that provides you protection, and so unless you give us permission, we will not discuss anything about your case.
All right.
Even if you don't retain us, that privilege is there as well.
Right, and then just another note too, we want you to know that if you do decide to retain us, you're still in charge of your case. We're here to help you. We're here to help you strategize and decide what might be the best path. But ultimately, it is your choice to make the decisions that you will.
Okay, great.
Okay. And our initial consultation here is free, so we don't have to worry about that for now. We have a retainer agreement that we can go over at the end, and we'll let you take that home with you, look over it, and decide it. If you have questions, you can always call us back about that. But
all right, sounds great.
Okay, so we'll get started. After you tell us what brings you in today, then we're going to summarize back to you what we've heard, so that we're sure that we have all of the facts as it pertains to your situation. And then we will ask some more questions, talk to you about any additional concerns that you might have, and from there we'll tell you what the next steps will be.
All right, very good.
okay, good. So you already told us that today, obviously, your reason for, or one of the reasons at least, is for you coming in is that you've been cited for disturbing the peace.
That's correct.
Okay, so could you maybe tell us a little bit more about how this came about or what happened, the events of the day?
I have a group called How Many More. It's called HMM. How Many More? And what it is, it's a group I created to stop gun violence.
Okay.
It's called How Many More? And it started because I have a sister who was actually shot at the mall.
Okay.
And as a result, she's in a vegetative coma, in a convalescent home. So we started this organization basically. And what we've been doing over the past 4 years, we've been protesting. Well, originally I started off as maybe to start a lobbying group to sort of change some of the laws. And the politicians weren't doing a whole lot, nothing was sort of getting happening. So we changed the strategy over to basically a grassroots type of, community activity organization. So one of the things that we do is, it sounds crazy, but every Sunday or Monday we get the weekend police blotter of all the people who were shot and killed, and we put their face on a banner, and then we go to the funerals and we basically protest. We put the face on there with the number, the victim number. We go to the funeral, we say, okay, this is victim number, 63. And then we go to the funerals, we're just very quiet about it, we just, protest. Now, some of the families, they're not real happy with it, but they don't get too upset because they know, what we're trying to do. So we were doing one of these protests, and we've been doing this for for a while, and we're getting more and more supporters. And then this gun nut group, they show up one day and they have this big production going on. They have cut out guns and all this nonsense, and the cops come up to us and say we have 5 minutes to get off the sidewalk. And whoever didn't leave in 5 minutes can get arrested. So they hooked me up. They're not particularly nice when they did it either.
So what happened when they hooked you up?
They put me in the back of the patrol car and they took me to the detention center.
And what was the charge?
Sort of disturbing the peace.
Okay. And when was that again?
That was last week.
Last week.
Last Thursday.
Have you ever been arrested before?
I have not.
And then, were you the only one arrested at this event, or were there other
No,
people?
some of the people in my organization, they were arrested, and so now they're all freaking out. They don't want to show up to the next one, which is Thursday, because they're afraid they're going to get arrested.
Okay.
We were on the public sidewalk carrying these banners. There's nothing on the banners other than just the picture that we pull off the internet and the number, the victim number. So we carry these signs and we walk in front of the funeral.
Okay.
We've been doing that for, a couple of years.
Okay.
And so disturbing the peace, the charge, did somebody call in on that? Was one of the families really upset?
Well, I don't know
You know
who
where
called. All I
it
know
came
is that we were there, and then the other group was there, and the cops basically said, "Hey, everybody's got to get out of here."
Okay.
And I told people, "We don't have to get out of here. It's on public sidewalk. We're not doing anything illegal." And then the cops said, "You got 5 minutes, and whoever's still here is getting arrested."
Okay. So prior to that, you said that the gun group showed up, and had they ever shown up at any
No,
of your other?
this was the first time.
This was the first time. And so what was the interaction between the two groups?
Well, we were doing our quiet, walk or whatever. They had these giant cutouts of various firearms, and they were just cardboard, but they were pointing them at us, and so it wasn't a pleasant afternoon.
No, and I'm sure it wasn't for the victims' families as well. I'm sure that was very traumatic.
And one of the other things that we do is we, on Fridays, we set up, it's not really a picket line, but it's a bunch of people carrying signs of the victims. And we do it down Main Street. And now the police are telling me that we can't do that anymore, we need a permit.
Right, I was gonna ask about that. And so have you checked into?
We did. We applied for a permit, and then 3 days later we get a rejection.
So they just flat out rejected you?
Flat out.
Did they give you a reason for rejection, or did
No,
they just
said
send the rejection?
Sent the rejection.
Okay.
And some of the posters and things that we put up, they said we can't do that either.
The poster?
We put up posters,
These are separate from the signs that you carry that
That's
have a
correct.
picture of the victim?
Right.
What did the posters say?
Same thing, but how many more? It's the name of the organization. We tape them to the poles, where they put up banners for bands coming to town and boxing matches and carpet cleaning, all that kind of stuff. We just have them along with the other ones.
The route that you walk up and down Main Street?
Well, we have them in other places besides Main Street, but
Around
we
town?
do around town. Correct. They say we can't do that either.
Okay. Was there ever a threat of violence during this altercation? I don't even know if I can call it an altercation between the two groups that were at this funeral.
From the police or from the opposing parties?
Well, either party.
I mean, the police, telling us we have to get off the sidewalk, they're going to arrest us. I mean, most of my supporters in this group, they're like not very non-confrontational.
Okay.
So they were not too happy with that. And now they're all flaking out. They don't want to show up anymore. They're afraid they're going to get arrested.
Sure.
You know.
That's kind of a threat in and of itself. Do you have a copy of your arrest report?
I do not.
Okay. So what is the next step? So you were booked, I'm assuming?
I was.
Okay. And did you have to post bail, or did they?
No, they released me.
Okay.
But we have court coming up, and I'm not going to plead guilty. So there's no guilty plea.
So what is it you would like us to do for you?
Well, we have the court coming up in December.
So representation for
Right.
your court date.
And then we need to, we're having another protest. Our usual Thursday protest is coming up in a couple days.
Okay.
And all the supporters are all freaking out. So I need to be able to tell them, hey, it's going to be okay, it's cool. But it's all the lawyers and within our constitutional right to walk up and down the sidewalk with a sign.
So you're just getting confirmation for that and getting some advice from us on how to
That's
proceed
correct.
from
That's
this
correct.
point forward.
You got it.
Okay. Is there anything else you need to tell us that pertains to this particular incident or any previous incidents
No.
or anything that relates to your group that you think might
No.
be helpful?
Nothing.
Do you advertise might be the wrong term, but do you put information out on social media?
We
or
do.
Twitter?
We have one of the supporters. He's very good with the internet, so he's got stuff up, and that's how sort of it's been growing. It's sort of been an organic growth from part of the families of the victims. They show up, and then some of their friends and family. So it's sort of been organically grown, and some people pull it off the internet, social media, and then they show up too.
And so the families, it seems that you have support from these families that.
Well, some of them don't like to see, their kids
Their
on the
children.
poster, but they understand what we're doing,
What you're
so
trying
they
to do, what the message you're trying to get
so they don't
across.
get. They might not be, in love with it, but they don't get too upset about it.
Okay. You talked about that your organization has grown and the protests have grown.
Correct.
What type of numbers are we talking about?
Maybe 50, 60. It's not a big. It's not a big.
So it's not to the point where you're prohibiting, or maybe I should ask you, are you prohibiting ingress or egress out of
No, our
the area?
protests are, we carry the signs, we don't say anything, it's a silent protest. Now, every now and then you get somebody from the social media, whatever, and they might get a little bit rowdy, but then we tell them what the ground rules are, and then they just, I mean, the other group, they're the ones who started all the noise and the giant, they're the ones who turned it into the circus. I mean, we were just there.
Did they have like megaphones or anything that they were doing with that, or was it just mainly those?
Just mainly with
Cardboard
the
cutouts
cardboard
and-
cutouts, and they're pointing them at other people and all that stuff.
Were they saying anything toward you guys, or making any comments?
Well, I
or
mean, they had
anything?
said some things, they had their own, they were chanting, whatever they were chanting, I wasn't really paying attention.
Sure.
because
That's
I
not
was
the
just
focus.
trying to keep, my supporters,
Right.
from freaking out.
Okay, so basically, I think you told us that the citation was for civil disobedience. It doesn't appear that there was any violence of any kind going on. It was more of a symbolic type of protest, if I could call it that, I guess. Non-violent. I'm just looking at I made some brief notes before you came in. I didn't have quite enough information to do some in-depth research on this particular subject, so if you'll give me a few moments here just to make sure that I have all the information I would like to have. And again, I forget, I know you asked the question, how many people were arrested on Thursday?
Well, I know that 6 of my supporters got
6
arrested.
of yours.
About a half dozen or so, yeah.
Were there people from the other group arrested as well?
I think there were, but I don't really know a whole lot about them.
Okay, that's okay.
So there's a problem that my people got arrested, they don't have a ton of money.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So now they're afraid to come to the protests.
Mm-hmm.
So, we need to know, that, because they're, calling me, my phone's blowing up. So Thursday is the day we usually do our protesting, and
And you don't really know what to do and what to tell them because, I understand their concerns. They want to know what will happen if they show up. And, we may not be able to answer what will happen, but we'd like to be able to advise you on what your rights are and what their rights are in terms of.
I thought I had the right to walk down the sidewalk with a sign. I didn't know that.
Yes,
You
and
live
as
in a
far
police state.
as far as we know, and until we do some more in-depth research, absolutely. I mean, I believe that we do, but, you know, each case is maybe
All right, so I
slightly
can,
different.
I'll just let everybody know we're good for Thursday, right?
No, we need to do some more research into that, and we'd like to get back with you on that if that's at all possible.
You need to research whether or not I can walk down a public street with a sign.
Yes, I would like to do.
So they have to research?
Yes, I would like to make sure that we are giving you the best advice and the right advice. Right now, I can't give you an answer on that.
You're kidding me, right?
No.
You're telling me that you have to research whether or not I can walk down a public sidewalk with a sign?
I want to make sure that I'm giving you the right advice, and right now I'm telling you that I'm not able to give you that advice right now. That's what I'm saying, yes.
Okay.
Do you have a blog? Can I ask that question?
I do, the organization has a blog, but I don't do the blogging.
Okay, but it's still fairly active, that you post
Yep.
posts on there.
I mean, it's just that people now are, they're getting hassled when they hang up the posters. You know, we got the Friday night march, Friday night protest. So you don't say anything, just people there holding signs down Main Street.
From everything you're telling me, when the First Amendment does provide you a high level of protection when you're on public streets and in public parks. Personally, I'm not sure about the funeral park that particular location. That's the one thing that I'm not completely
Well, it's
sure
not
about.
always the same location. I mean, you go to the churches wherever we've been to some churches more than others.
Okay.
We've been doing this for.
But this was actually at the burial site.
No, it's at the church.
It's at
on
the
sidewalk
church where the
of
funeral was
church.
being held.
Correct.
Okay, all right.
And we've been doing, so we've gone to some churches more than once because there's been more incidents in some areas than others. And we've been to some other churches. We've been doing this for months. We haven't had a problem from either the churches or the people or the victims or anybody.
I understand. And we don't know why all of a sudden. I mean,
Well,
obviously,
I
having
know
the other
why.
group there
It's-
has taken it to another level.
I know why. When we were 10, 20 members, nobody cared. Now we're 60 members and it's growing and, so now we're getting hassled. We're getting hassled by the city. They're telling us that we need permits. They're telling us that we can't hang up posters. They can hang up posters for somebody cleaning your, 3 rooms of your house for $40 and they can have, the guy dressed up like the Statue of Liberty on the corner and that's okay. But then our organization, we can't hold up a sign with a victim who's been shot in the head. That's not okay.
I know. I know. It's got to be very frustrating. I understand.
We've got, I think, we already asked once, but we have generally a good amount of information from you on what's going on, what the situation is, what your concerns are.
And we know that this is time is of the essence, so to speak, because you're getting a lot of telephone calls. You're not getting a lot of sleep. You said this is a difficult thing to go through, and you're responsible for the people that
we've been
you're
working
giving
on
advice
this.
to them, and
I
they
don't
look
want
to you.
The momentum of the organization to stop. It's taken us, 4 years of the grassroots stuff. Now, as soon as we're getting momentum, now the cops are stepping in and the city's stepping in and they're denying our permits. And they're just hassling us. And I wanted to do what we've been doing. I'm not asking for anything special. I'm not trying to block the streets. I'm not asking to have a parade. We would walk down the sidewalk with a sign the way I've always been able to, the way everybody else can.
And get the permit. If you need the permit, then get the permit, because at this point, it doesn't appear that there's any reason why you would not.
Why would
get
the
it.
city make me get a permit to walk down the sidewalk?
Well, and I don't know what the parameters are for a permit. I don't know if it's a certain size of the group, that once you get to a certain size and there's issues with, it gets too large and the area is not big enough for a particular event or a protest. Like I said, I don't know. I need to do a little bit more research into that and let you know. There may be reasons why a permit is needed now and you didn't need one before.
Do you work for the city?
No, I don't.
I mean, I have a organization. I want to walk down the street with a sign. You're telling me there may be reasons why the police can come in, arrest my people, because I want to walk down the sidewalk with a sign. They might be justified in that.
They may be, and that's what I'm saying. I don't know, but we need to find that out, because if they are justified, then we need to find a way to work this out so that you our goal for you, and if what I'm hearing is correct, your goal is to be able to be and continue to do what you're doing and to keep the momentum
My
going.
ultimate goal is to stop the gun violence. This is just a method, and now that it's becoming successful, the police department and the city and all these other sort of people, they're, I know why they're doing it, because it's actually that they didn't care before, and now they're out looking to stymie us, and that's why we need to get it stopped before the momentum stops and all these supporters go in and do something else.
Well, we certainly want to help you with whatever it is you would like to have happen. And we would like to be able to, in order for us to do that, we need to...
I'm a really easy client. All I want to have happen is what's always been happening. I've always been doing this. I'm just going to keep on doing it. I'm not bothering anybody. I'm not making noise. It's a silent protest. I'm carrying a sign along my supporters down the street. It's not complicated.
Right.
And I don't want to
It doesn't
make
appear to be.
It's not.
And it shouldn't be.
Exactly. So that's what we're here to do. So Thursday we're having the other protest, and we're going to go forward with it. I want to make sure we're not going to get hassled.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. So what would you like for us to do right now? Because I'm telling you that I would like to do a little bit more research and get back with you. Is that okay with you if I do that?
So fine, do the research, and I can tell my supporters that you guys are doing the research, and
Right.
we're good for Thursday. All right, awesome.
Well, we'll get back with you. As far as we know, you are good for Thursday. But
Great.
if we find anything else out to the contrary, then we will certainly let you know.
That's
But-
fair enough. So we're
but let me
good
get
unless
back-
we hear something otherwise.
Let me get back with you tomorrow and let you know what we found out. Is that okay?
So, well, there's the deal. A lot of my supporters have to take off of work on these Thursdays. They have to put in their request for leave, on Monday.
Sooner is better.
So they're gonna call me tomorrow on Monday. You're gonna call me tomorrow. I'll call them on Monday and say, all right, everything's cool.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Did you want to talk about retainer?
Yeah, yes, definitely. So I have here, like I said before when we were talking about it, this is our retainer agreement here. It goes over our rates for associates. It's usually about $150 an hour. Legal assistants are run around $75. It's got any of your basic information in there that you need. You're welcome to take that home with you.
All right, great.
Look
Are
over
we
it.
gonna deal with the permit thing too? I mean, I see we got the Thursday thing. We'll get that resolved.
Mhm.
We're cool with that, and then we're gonna deal with the permit. City
Yeah,
has
we
to
can
make the
definitely
permit.
look into the permit
the
as
posters.
well and see if we can find out why it is that they said they're rejecting it and what their reasons are behind that. Because it doesn't seem to be valid to me at this point.
All right,
We've
awesome.
got the permit, the posters, and the protest.
Permit, and then of course we have the criminal case coming
Yes.
in.
The criminal
The
case
court
coming,
date as
absolutely,
well.
we can absolutely help you with
I
that.
mean, guys, there's no way they're gonna try to make me plead guilty to something so they can then keep arresting me. I'm not gonna plead guilty.
We will help you with
We
that.
can help you with that.
Absolutely.
All right, great.
So if you could take a look at the retainer agreement and let us know if you would like to hire us, and we'll begin work immediately on your case.
That'd be awesome.
Okay.
All right, how about
Any
I
other
think-
questions for us?
No, I think we're good. I heard what I needed to hear. Appreciate it.
Fantastic.
All right, thank you very much.
It was great meeting you. Thank you so
All right,
much.
Thank you, thank you.
you, Marcus. I'll
I
help you out.
appreciate it, thank you.
And if we could get a copy of the police report, that would be great.
All right, very good.
Thank you so
All right,
much.
Thank you very much.
Well, it would have been nice if our associate who, deals with First Amendment was
Yeah,
here
well,
to help us
out of
with
the
this,
office,
because I'm a
but-
little out of my league with this particular issue, but the little bit that I know, it absolutely doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't make any
whatsoever.
sense to me at all either.
But I do, before I tell him that absolutely, yes, he can do this, I'm not as comfortable making that decision
And-
without researching that.
Right,
and-
absolutely.
And bringing in.
Well, and I wouldn't be okay with letting you do that anyways. That we obviously are in the same boat here. We need to. Really...
I think we need to talk to Steve, see what his schedule is later
Mhm.
today.
Okay.
And get with him and get some advice. I know he's worked with the city on this.
Yeah.
He has good information for
Yeah.
us.
And we definitely need to look into that. I'm not quite. We need to find the reason why they rejected it. I don't know. Maybe it's. It could be something as simple as an administrative thing where they just didn't fill something out right, or it could be an issue that they have, or it's a valid issue. If it's not,
And again, we're getting the client's point of view, and he's very passionate about this particular
Right.
issue. I completely understand that, but I'd like to make sure, I'd also like to see the police report.
That would be good as well.
And
I just,
I talked to him on the way out, he's gonna get.
oh, perfect, I was gonna say, we didn't mention that.
Okay.
I think, I mean, getting on the research is probably the most important thing.
This
We
is
do
an
need to
interesting-
get back to him sooner rather than later, like we said, because
And this is an
time is of
interesting
the
case.
essence. It is
It's a very
interesting, yes.
interesting case, and I'm gonna enjoy learning more about this particular area.
Yeah,
Okay,
good,
all right.
good.
And now we'll give you some feedback from our eminent judges. Miguel, are you going to go first?
Sure. My name is Miguel Escobar. I work for the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. We're a federal agency. We enforce federal employment discrimination laws, Title VII, Americans with Disabilities Act. I thought you both did a very nice job. I'll give some constructive criticism after I mentioned some parts that I thought worked particularly well. I thought that you presented a very calming and welcoming environment for him to talk about a very sensitive issue to him. Obviously, it's something he's very passionate about, and notwithstanding the fact that he is a difficult client, I would say, perhaps not terribly difficult out in the real world, but difficult enough, certainly, most certainly. Yeah, I thought you did a very nice job of being open and welcoming his input. I also thought that you did a nice job of sharing some of the work. There were a couple of points where there were some awkward pauses, even just for a moment where you were both looking down. And I would have liked it a little better if you timed it a bit more than when one of you is looking down to think of the next question, the other person took over. Part of what concerned me is that it felt rushed, that some of the legal issues that needed to be addressed got glossed over. That there was no mention really about the category alternative courses of action. What's going to happen? Is this going to go to litigation? Are you going to do a letter to the department? Are you going to seek an injunction? What avenues are here? At one point, Dawn, I heard you say, "What do you want us to do?" If I'm a client coming to an attorney, I don't want the attorney asking me what to do. That's what I'm paying you for.
Right.
These exorbitant fees that every lawyer charges, right? So I want you to tell me, what am I doing? What are my options? I can do A, B, C, or D, and let's talk about it. But I thought that you did an excellent job of asking straight out at the beginning, what is it you want us to do? That was a bit of a contradiction. I wish you would have kept more in line with that at the start. You said, what do you want us to do at the start? What is it we'd like to accomplish? I think is very different than how do you want us to accomplish
Yeah, I
that.
think it came out wrong, yeah.
But otherwise,
But
I think you did a very nice job.
Appreciate the feedback.
Of course.
My name is Marta Chernasheva. I'm with MC Law Group, a boutique immigration law firm for Attorney Strong, and we deal mostly with both litigation and administrative law. So I sue the government. So this is really kind of in my alley. Not in exactly this issue, but my clients are as frustrated as this one many times, and so I deal with this type of issues a lot. Now, I really like how you started with the confidentiality right away and you made the client very comfortable. I also liked how you provided the timeline of the consultation of what's going to happen next, that you're going to listen to him and then you're going to give him some feedback and then you're going to talk about the contract. I really love that you had the contract ready in the room so that the client could take a copy with him. I also liked a lot the fact that you got the citation issue right away and you got on it and kind of ironed it out. I also liked the fact that when you got a little bit of the story, you also flashed out the fact that, okay, we understand your story, what is it that you're here for? And so you got the issue out that he wants to get his activities restarted. So you've got all of that out really early on, literally in the first 10 minutes, which was really good from the point of attorneys, we don't have a lot of time, and you got it all out of him right away, which was good. I also like the fact that the atmosphere was very calming, so the client, even though he's a very difficult client, he did not have any opportunity to really act out on anything. I really like the fact that you were compassionate about his sister, and I was trying to say sister or daughter, so sister, and also that you put that issue to rest right away to get to the point why he's here today. A lot of times when clients have something very painful in their personal life, that's what they're going to talk about all the time, and you very nicely put that issue to rest and concentrate on what he needed to do. Some of the points that I would like to bring that your team was actually the only one that flashed out is the fact of the sensitivity to the victims' families, which I think is an important issue, and you brought it up, and you actually kept on it, which I think was very good, because he didn't want to. He wanted you to steer away from that. You know, he kept saying that, well, they don't like it, but they're okay with it, and you kept bringing that issue up and saying that we need to do some more research, we need to see some of your posting, we need to see how the families are doing, because that's one of the issues that come up later when you said, okay, so can I go on Thursday to do the demonstration? And I really, really appreciate the fact that even though he was pushing for it, Dan, you actually stayed strong on saying, I need to do some more research into your specific case, because each case is different, which is exactly what was the pivotal, I think, of this particular issue, is that yes, there is a First Amendment right, but is it in your particular case, you can exercise it at this point. Now I'm going to tell you a few things that I saw that you could have done a little better. And most importantly, as far as we know you're good for Thursday, you just told him you're not sure. How can you say, as far as you know, do you really know?
No.
So, and that's putting not just him, but 60 other people at risk of having a criminal record.
Yeah, that didn't feel right.
So that was I think needs to be very much more careful about that. And also, when you eventually at the end restated what the issue he's bringing up, you forgot about the citation.
Yeah.
He had to bring it up.
Yeah.
So the other thing is that he is talking about time being sensitive. And you're saying, I'm going to start the work today, but he did not retain you, really. How are you going to start the work without being paid? He didn't sign the contract, he didn't pay you nothing. So all he knows is that you're going to do this work for free, basically, because you promised him. You said, we're going to start working on it today, and you're going to get back to him tomorrow, and you haven't even seen the dime, or at least a signed contract with some kind of promissory note or anything like that. So I thought that was something very important. And I really like how you got out the blog and the signs and everything else. I think that was absolutely incredible how you got all that out of him when he was not really volunteering that information. And I don't know, I think that's really just a law school thing. You guys, he's a older gentleman in the sense of he's not a student. And other 60 people in his group are not maybe all 15 years old. And so addressing them as you guys might not be very professional in a sense. In a law school environment, and even right now here, we can say, well, you guys did a great job. But when you're talking to a client and you don't know what the actual structure of his membership is, addressing them as you guys might have been not appropriate. But I think, again, you really flashed out an issue that was very important. That's the victim's family. You really did not address any issue of how you're going to go about to allowing maybe his group to do something on Thursday. You didn't really give him anything that you're going to do to. You did talk about in your post-interview reflection that you are going to maybe look into his permit and see what you're going to do, but you didn't really look into the injunction or asking the courts or maybe talking to the police department to see what exactly happened. So those are the things that may have been helpful, but I think overall the calmness of your demeanor during the interview was really good, and the fact that the client walked out with at least knowing that he should receive some answer from you before he tells his group that they should come out on Thursday was really good. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Michael Lee. I work at Bogas Law Group. We're a commercial litigation boutique. We specialize in matters dealing with real estate finance, mortgages, guarantees, anti-deficiency laws, and so forth. Some of the things that I noticed, and I think without having to just rehash everything that my colleagues have said, it just, I want to start, your start was excellent. You guys did a really good job with your nonverbals throughout the interview, I feel like, and especially with a matter like this where there are some really personal, sensitive issues coming up, and you guys, that whole environment and nonverbal, like the welcoming, that feeling is a great kind of environment to put the client in and put the client at ease. Some of the things I noticed, at first, Brandy, right? Brandy, you seem a little focused on, is it a script that you're looking at, or what?
It's questions and just making sure that I'm going through, touching on any of the most
I know
important
that
things
was perhaps a little bit distracting in terms of beginning an interview and giving the client your full attention. I felt like you could have done more. I think with respect to just getting the facts and getting enough so that you're able to analyze the problem. And I understand, because these are issues that I don't deal with, and I can sympathize with you to the extent that, you know, it's hard to really, if you don't know sort of the background law, and it's hard for you to make a decision one way or the other on how to really answer and advise the client. But at the same time, you know, I felt like you could have gone after the facts and with more like aggressiveness, and instead of just, it felt like at times you were just sitting back and taking it in, but not knowing really what to do with it. When the client was asking you, okay, so you felt like you need to do more research about just me taking up a sign and walking down the street. I think what he's trying to get at underneath that is the follow-up question. So why do you feel like you need to do more research? I don't think he kind of quite answered that, instead of just saying, oh, I just need to do more research. Just trust me, I need to do more research. You know, I think the client wants to know, all right, here, explain to me why that is, and then, you know, that way I can better answer to sort of the people that I have to answer to as well. Yeah, the awkward silence, that was something that I picked up as well. Perhaps there could have been more coordination on both your parts, you know, sort of like jumping, giving the client more attention when the other one's looking up on something else. But overall, great job on listening and trying to understand the problem, that, you know, again, and empathizing with the client. So, good job.
My name is Ian Houston. I do mainly medical malpractice defense. Wouldn't really get to delve into these issues all that often either, so I can also sympathize. I thought, well, now I see what you mean about going last, because you covered a lot of points. I mean, a lot of the, you know, on both sides, the positives and the negatives. So I thought it was great that you were able to go ahead and work through the facts and things like that. The flip side of that is you took a lot of notes. Well, I've sort of been inconsistent, because I talked to other teams about not taking any notes. With your team, I felt like the notes sort of took over for you, and you were looking down a lot. I have look up written on here. So I mean, there's got to be a balance between trying to fact gather and get that all taken down, but also, you know, not. I noticed at one point in time when you were writing notes, you were saying out loud what you were writing.
Was I really?
Right. Just
Oh my
I mean,
gosh.
just you were just kind of trailing into like the next question and things like that. But it was sort of quiet for a moment there while you were finishing writing down. And that's something that I think can come out with teamwork too, is, you know, if someone's taking notes while someone else is sort of taking the lead with questioning, and sort of trade off that way. But like I said, so there's a good and a bad to that. Good job sticking to your guns, as far as I'm not, you know, I do feel like this needs additional investigation. The other side of that is, obviously the client reacted to research.
Right.
I need to do more research. Well, and sort of like we touched on here, explain what you mean by needs to do more research. Because, and that's, a lot of times, it's just a matter of one word that the client reacts to. Obviously didn't like research. You need to research whether or not I have First Amendment rights, whether or not I can walk down a public sidewalk. Just change, well, this is what I mean by research. There's fact gathering that needs to be done. Because that's not necessarily what everyone would think of as research. We're thinking of research on a global sense, I guess, or sort of a bigger sense. But if he's thinking, well, why would you need to research whether or not I have the right to freedom of speech, that type of thing, just break it down. I thought you did a great job. And I did have. Am I allowed to ask a question?
Sure.
Okay. What was the significance of the supervising attorney role?
I was curious about that as well.
Well, and that's a valid question. We were initially, we just came into this like 3 days ago and decided to do it. And so we were coming up with a whole role play. Why would you have two attorneys coming in on a case? Typically, I don't know if that happens or not. We're just not that experienced. And so typically I sit with the client. So I bring, and so the supervising attorney had certain roles within this particular scenario. And we played around with, is this just my associate, but does that make sense? Maybe we were overthinking, why are there two attorneys sitting in on this case?
Okay, and the reason that I asked was because I've been in both of those roles, I guess would be both, and then also another one in there. I've been the new attorney, I've been the supervising attorney, and I've been in meetings with, even now, with the partner that I work for, and it was interesting to see sort of who had more involvement with the client during the meeting. Was it the new attorney, was it the supervising attorney? So that's something that if you want to continue using that dynamic, that you might just want to be cognizant of.
Yeah,
Okay.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Great job.
My name is Danny Ryan. I work for a law firm called Partners Lego Marcino. I do personal injury, criminal defense, and civil rights stuff. It's mostly excessive force, but maybe with all the info I've learned about First Amendment in the past 2 days, maybe I'll expand a little bit. But let me start with the good. I think that I like the sincerity, and that it's been commented upon, but when the client was explaining to you the circumstances of his sister's death and the circumstances of how he started his group and stuff like that, from your group, I felt a little bit more genuineness to your response and genuineness as to, I felt a little bit more just comfortable, like, oh, they're giving a good vibe of, they understand. The other ones, it just seemed a little fake, but I think that, I don't know how someone can teach themselves to do that, but you had that, and that was something that, I really enjoyed about your consultation. I like the police report, okay? I like you asking about the police report, and I like you telling, last thing before you walk out the door is make sure you give me that police report. He's telling you one version of the story, the police report's gonna have another, and it's not just the police officer's story, but if there was witness statements taken, there would be, additional things in there that would help you determine, hey, did this guy get kicked off the sidewalk for marching, or, was he harassing these people at the church? Was he impeding traffic? So I think that is something that was a very key thing to focus on, and I like that not only did you focus on it quickly and asked him if he had it, but you also followed up and made sure to get that, because the more realistic appraisal you have of the situation, the more realistic you'll be able to meet his expectations. It may not be may not tell him what he wants to hear, but it's about speed and diligence and all that. So I like that a lot. I liked how you brought the client down to earth, and I will tell you something else about your ability to do that. When he's been a fussy client for all three. When he got fussy, the other groups got uncomfortable. You stared him dead in the eye, and you stuck with what you were saying, and you did that. And I think that's something to be very, very proud of. The ability to encounter that type of of energy, and then to stick with it and keep your calm and keep your body language and your demeanor was very good. So I like that as well. With the negative, I don't like all the I don't knows. This person's coming to see you for your professional advice. You got to learn how to tweak that. You know, your lawyers learn to be persuasive, learn to structure the way the things you're saying without digging yourself in a hole, but at the same time not making the thing that you're completely clueless.
Right.
Okay. The just research thing is another thing that's already been talked about, but he basically walked out of here thinking that you're going to do some homework for him. Okay, because that's what he doesn't understand, that you're about to go into First Amendment law and case law and determine you know, his right to free speech versus you know, things like that. So breaking that down a little bit more for him would have been better. And another thing that I just want to say is that with the just research thing, you were actually explaining, like, okay, were you getting in the middle of traffic and things like that? So you did know. I mean, you did know some of the things that were going on, but you know, you could have just emphasized those a little bit more. It's just a structured thing. And the last thing, well, two things that are kind of interconnected. I'm a little concerned that you might have sent your client out to get arrested. And that, it's already been mentioned, but that's a big deal. It is a real big deal, okay? You have to tell him and be firm with him and say, you need to wait before you go out, before I'm done. And if you're not going to listen to me and do that, then you might want to go speak with another attorney, because that's my advice to you. Okay, you need to be more firm with that resolve. Another thing that's very important is, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he said the date, like the month of the hearing and the year of the hearing, but I don't think that you actually asked him what the date was, okay? If you're criminal defense, like, you're walking away from that consultation, you're putting that date on your calendar, and you're making sure that he's aware of it a couple of days before and that he's showing up to that hearing. So I just think that it's important to understand the severity of some of the things, and as another judge very keenly pointed out, is that it's not just him, but he's about to go tell all these other people to do it. So better to learn that lesson here than in real life.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
yes, definitely.
Take advantage of
This
all
opportunity is
these
fantastic.
resources
Yeah.
you have too. So but other than that, I mean, congratulations and great job.
Thank you.
I was going to let Mr. Winslow offer a few words.
This is the deal. When you handed me that retainer agreement, if I was the client, I was going to sign it in a second. I didn't even ask you about money. Why? You told me what I wanted to hear. You said Thursday is a green light as far as I know, and as a maniacal client who's all ramped up, who's already a burning campfire. That's what everything else that happened after that, not paying attention to. The lawyers told me, so what do you think I would do? I call my supporters, great news. I just talked to Brandy and the law firm, and guess what? We're good. Get the signs twice as big as they were last week. Right? That's what you do. I got the green light, and boom. And how I got you to do that? At first you resisted. You're like, oh no, I got to do. I was like, research. What's research? Well, I need a research. And then you're like, no, then you back. And then I backed you up, and I said, wait a minute here. What do you work for the city? What do you work for the police? What are you there? And then you like backed up, and then you came back and like, oh, as far as I know, you're good. And I had you. You were done. You were finished, and it was over. And when I got arrested on Thursday, guess whose fault it was? You got it. And guess who's now, I'm going to the lawyer down the street and say, these two jackass lawyers told me that I could walk around with this giant sign and fill bags with urine and throw them on people because you didn't get into anything. You never saw the police or you never saw anything. But I backed you up. At first, you were sticking to your guns, and I even gave you purposely 3 or 4 different chances to get out of it. I said, okay, well, great. So I'll tell you, we're good. We got a green light. Oh, yeah, okay. I said, great. Then she looked at the comments and said, great, we're doing this, doing this. And I gave you another chance to say, oh, we got a green light on Thursday. And again, you didn't bite it. 3 times I gave you that shot to back out of it, to say, no, you're misunderstanding me. You don't have a green light until, blah, blah. So when he's saying, oh, the client thinks you're doing research, the client doesn't care. The client heard what he wanted to hear. carte blanche, I'm good. And unless you sent them a follow-up letter immediately or an email that said, Mr. Winslow, blah, 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 don't do anything until we can give you a report, he's already off to the races. He's already coming around the racetrack. The horse is out of control. He's out of the barn. It's gone. But it was fun pushing you. It was fun watching you react and watching you react and watching you react. So you did a good job. It's a difficult type of interview, and it's not something that you get to confront people as an attorney in a way that you don't get to do in polite society.
I would hope not.
Well, no, you do. You have to confront people. You have to call them out, and you have to get aggressive with them. Or else you'll end up with a client like that who just is out of control.
All right. Well, great job.
So you know, he was like that with everyone. He wasn't picking on you.
Yeah.
It's all right. You did a great job.
All right. You guys have your support sheets ready to go? All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Jane.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you. Okay, don't fill us for these hours.
Oh, I will.
Great
job.
Thank you.
I will,
Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Miguel.
I'll send you.
You guys are welcome to stick around. We'll be announcing the results
used to do a lot of
in 10 minutes or
football.
so.
Sorry, getting out of there.
Great.
Ever since all the construction workers left town, it's not as much fun. We got Teddy?
What's that?
Parker's and Teddy Parker?
No, it's Parker Shear is actually a Boston-based firm. Parker Shear Lego Machine. They have a satellite office here in Vegas, so I work at that one. Yeah. Had a very, you got Stanley Gibson.